It hangs on the SRBs. If you put hold down points down at the bottom of SLS and tried to stack it there, it would crumple. It's not designed to do that. It's designed to hang. So you can use a thinner tank wall that way. Now, SLS's tank wall is a little bit thicker than this, but crazy part is something like Centaur's upper stage, Chroma can, I know. Something like Centaur's upper stage is about this thin. Seriously, the tank wall on a Centaur 3 and ULA's future Centaur 5 is about as thin as this aluminum on the real rocket. Because it uses pressure to stand up straight. It's called a balloon tank. Yeah, rocket uses pressure to stay up straight. Why? Well, why would you need that extra metal? Why does it need to stand up straight? Just pressurize the stupid thing. And if you guys go look at a picture of a Centaur stage right now, here. Centaur stage. Real quick, last thing I'm going to talk to you about before I go and break. If we look at pictures of a Centaur stage, look, whenever they move Centaur stages around, you have to have a bunch of cranes, or it has to sit in a cradle. It has to sit in a big cradle, and it has to stay pressurized, or else that thing will crumple like a beer can. Yeah, badly. They're very delicate. So, like, if Centaur was unpressurized, and I was standing next to one and I had a screwdriver, I could punch a hole right through it. It's a little bit thicker than aluminum foil. Seriously, about the thickness of a dime, maybe. Maybe. Crazy, right? So, I will be back momentarily. EJ's Space and Rocket Review, and then Fixing Past Launch Vehicles Part 2.5. We'll switch over to Science and Tech. We'll go from there. Let me get a video up for everybody to see, and I will be right back. Let me find a good video, though. What should we watch? What should we watch? You know what? We need some SDS1 action. Hey, Harry. I'll be back in a moment.
Sunday, April 12th, 1981. Kennedy Space Center, Florida. The Space Shuttle. 14 stories high, 2,000 tons, poised on the pad for its maiden flight. This is Columbia, the spaceship that will orbit the Earth. Its external tank. It holds over 500,000 gallons of fuel for Columbia's 3 main engines. And the solid rocket boosters, the largest ever used on any launch vehicle and the first to be employed in a U.S. manned flight. At liftoff, the solid rocket boosters, together with the 3 main engines, will unleash more than 6.5 million pounds of thrust needed to launch the world's first reusable spacecraft. Never before has a winged vehicle been launched like a rocket, orbited the Earth, returned through frictional heating in excess of 2,500 degrees, and landed, still aerodynamically sound, to be launched again and again. If it succeeds, the space shuttle will truly be a remarkable flying machine. There are many other goals to be reached during the 54.5-hour mission that lies ahead. 144 test objectives are planned for the flight. These objectives could not be achieved without an astronaut crew. The commander, John Young. The pilot, Robert Crippen. Young has already been in space 4 times for a total of 533 hours. he is the most experienced astronaut flying today. Although Crippen has over 4,000 hours of jet aircraft flying time, this will be his first time in space. The astronauts make their way across the access arm toward the shuttle in the pre-dawn hours before launch. An American spaceship has never carried a human crew on its maiden voyage. At the Launch Control Center, 3 miles from the pad, final steps are being completed in the countdown. Final preparations are also being made in the Mission Control Center in Houston, where control of the flight will switch once the shuttle clears the tower. There has not been a manned launch from Kennedy Space Center since the Apollo-Soyuz test project in July of 1975. With this launch, Young and Crippen, launch controllers at the Cape, and flight controllers in Houston will experience the most dynamic, fast-paced series of launch events ever undertaken in the space program, all in less than 9 minutes. The most challenging ascent profile ever to be flown by a space vehicle. Photographers, film and television crews, plus newspaper and magazine writers from around the world, nearly 2,700 of them are here to cover the launch. In addition, approximately 600,000 spectators line the coastal area near the Kennedy Space Center. Arriving by every mode of transportation, they have come from every state in the Union and many foreign countries. The promise of a rebirth in America's manned space program and the dawn of a new era in space transportation awaits.
14, 13, T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. We've gone for main engine start.
Roger, roll.
The roll will put the shuttle on its precise heading toward an imaginary target in space.
Roll program complete.
Roger, roll complete. Get a status. Vital. Go. Booster. Go. GNC. Go. Eagle. Go. Go at 40, Capcom. Columbia, Houston, you're go at 40.
The shuttle is now 40 seconds into flight.
Roger, Columbia, on the nice ride. You're lofting a little bit. You'll probably be slightly high at staging. Negative seats. Columbia, you're negative seats.
Should anything go wrong, the shuttle is now too high for the astronauts to use their ejection seats.
Roger, you're go for SRB step.
We see SRB step flight.
Roger, on a step.
103 converge flight.
Bet. Capcom, let's tell them all the calls are going to be a tad early because of the hot first stage. Columbia, you're looking a little hot. All your calls will be a little early.
Okay. Map looks good here. Stand by, press to MECO.
Columbia, stand by. Press to MECO.
Mark it.
Marked. Press for MECO.
Roger, press for MECO.
The shuttle can now continue toward MECO, main engine cutoff.
They like the VAP, Eagle. ECOM. Let's go, flight. Capcom, VAPs go.
Stand by, negative return.
Columbia, stand by for negative return.
Mark it.
Marked. Negative return. And your VAP is good.
Outstanding. Sure is. We can confirm it. What a view. What a view.
And single engine rotor flag.
And Columbia, your single engine rota.
Columbia can land safely at the Naval Air Station in Rota, Spain, even if 2 of the 3 main engines should fail. Right now, the engines are generating over 42 million horsepower.
At MECO 25, 6,
MECO.
0, up at 220.
Roger, MECO.
And we got MECO confirmed.
MECO confirmed, and it's right on the money, nominal.
Main engine cutoff. Columbia is now in space, traveling over 18,000 miles per hour.
Okay, we got set.
Roger, we confirm the step, Columbia.
The external tank has just been jettisoned and is now falling away from the shuttle back toward Earth. The tank will break up as planned over the Indian Ocean when it comes into contact with the atmosphere. Shortly, by firing the OMS, Orbital Maneuvering System engines, Columbia will achieve orbit. Then one of the most important tests of the mission will be attempted, opening the payload bay doors. The doors must be opened before the end of the 6th orbit to expose the space radiator cooling system. If the radiators cannot be exposed, heat collected from the onboard electronics cannot be released, and the astronauts will have to return home. The OMS burns are successful. Columbia is now in orbit, circling the Earth at an altitude of approximately 150 miles. The payload bay doors will now be opened.
Okay, the port door's coming open now.
Roger, copy.
Well, you are missing one fantastic sight. Boy, that is really beautiful out there.
We appreciate those updates.
Both doors have been opened. The radiators can be deployed to begin dissipating the heat.
The doors are all opened up and hunky-dory. Glad to deploy it right on time.
And the radiators look good.
Okay, we want to show you our own pods here. We do have a few tile missing off of both of them. Off of the starboard pod, 3 tile and some smaller pieces. And off the port pod, looks like I see one full square and looks like a few little triangular shapes that are missing. And we're trying to put that on TV right now.
Roger, Crip, we can see that good.
From what we can see of both wings, tops and leading edges, though, all those are fully intact.
Within minutes, an assessment is completed on the impact these missing tiles could have on the remainder of the mission. At a news conference later in the day, Flight Director Neil Hutchison answers questions from reporters.
But you asked me if I knew where there were any other tiles that might be loose. The answer is no. And quite frankly, we're not worried about any other tiles being loose.
At this writing, is there anything at all that would lead you to say you might not go for a full duration mission?
Nothing.
Columbia, Houston, you guys did so good, we're going to let you stay up there for a couple of days. Your gopher on orbit.
Spacecraft Let's Go for on orbit. This thing is just performing just outstanding.
Roger, we agree with that. And Columbia, Houston, just for your information, you dropped those SRBs right on target, and they were floating just the way they ought to be, and the boats were getting ready to fish them and bring them back.
Okay. The ride that they gave us was pretty neat.
The solid rocket boosters, which separated from the Columbia as planned 2 minutes 11 seconds into the flight, landed on target in the Atlantic Ocean, 151 miles downrange from the launch site. After being towed back to Kennedy Space Center, both boosters will be refurbished and used again in a future shuttle flight. The third and fourth OMS burns are also successful, raising Columbia's orbit to an altitude of approximately 172 miles. For the first television transmission from inside the spacecraft, the crew will give a status report on the mission.
The flight so far has gone as smooth as it could possibly go. We've done every test that we're supposed to do, and we're up on the timeline, and the vehicle has just been performing beautifully, much better than anyone ever expected to do on a first flight, and no systems are out of shape. And it's delightful up here in zero gravity, might add. Of course, we owe this to a lot of people, so we certainly want to thank everyone who has helped get this thing airborne, and can take great pride in it's doing so well right now. Okay, we're switching over to the aft camera here. Yeah, I'd like to echo John's words as I usually do. I guess being the so-called rookie on this flight, I had a thrill from the moment of liftoff all the way up to what we're doing now. It's really been super. The spacecraft has worked as advertised all the way along. I think we've got something that's really going to mean something to the country and the world. This vehicle is performing like a champ, like all of us that have worked so long on it knew that you would.
Okay, sir, we appreciate those comments.
I guess that does it.
That was a good time, and I think you must have practiced. We're just about to lose your ghost song.
Just accident.
Just accident, says Robert Crippen. None of the other events of the day have been accidental. Every test, liftoff, SRB separation and recovery, ET separation and impact, 4 OMS burns, payload bay door latch opening and closing tests, radiator latch deploy and stowing tests have all been successful.
I guess we owe you guys one super attaboy for today. This is fantastic. You worked through a pretty long, hard day, and you're essentially right on schedule, which is going to be close to being a first sort of spaceflight biz, I think, for first day activities. It's sure been fun working with you today, and we look forward to seeing you in the morning. I hope you get a good night's rest.
Okay, you guys did super work today. See you mañana.
Roger, thank you. See you tomorrow, guys.
Well, many hour went into this thing. A job well done by the shuttle space team. We can't say that she's sleek and lean, but I'll tell you right now, she's a mean machine. The Columbia, not the kind you smoke. This here's a bird.
Morning, Columbia. Welcome to day 2.
All right. Appreciate that super wake-up music this morning. Well, we sure enjoyed it. This one a good breakfast.
Today, the astronauts will test onboard systems and also review procedures for tomorrow's landing. A test of the flight control system is conducted by John Young. The flight control system operates Columbia's aero surfaces, the elevons, body flaps, rudder, and speed brake. These surfaces are useless in the vacuum of space, but will be essential tomorrow when the shuttle lands. This will require precision maneuverability, which the aero surfaces provide. Payload bay door cycling tests help ensure that latching and closing procedures can also be done before entry tomorrow. As with every mission, many pictures of the Earth are taken by the astronauts, over 500 on this first shuttle flight. Active volcanoes, cloud formations, alluvial fans, giant whirlpools over 15 miles in diameter, sand dunes 1,500 feet high, running unbroken for hundreds of miles. The high Himalayas, where mountain peaks reach 24,000 feet. And one of the most remarkable space photographs ever taken of the Earth, an area in Iran exposed to wind erosion, which has resulted in these breathtaking silt and sandstone formations that look more like a painting than a desert. After lunch on the second day, the astronauts receive a phone call from the Vice President of the United States, George Bush.
How's it going up there? Everything rocking along all right?
Spaceship is just performing beautifully.
Well, it's great, and everybody views it, I'm sure, just as the forerunner of great things to come. I think your trip is just going to ignite the excitement and the forward thinking from this country, so I really just wanted to call up and wish you the very best.
We certainly appreciate it, Mr. Vice President.
The crew also don and check out the ejection suits they will wear during entry. Young, Crippen, and Columbia pass every test. They are ready for the final phase of the mission, entry and landing. April 14th, 1981. NASA's Dryden Flight Research Center on the edge of Rogers Dry Lake Bed in California. A recovery convoy of 24 vehicles and more than 100 personnel are assembling here to power down Columbia after landing. Enormous crowds are also beginning to arrive. A string of traffic 6 miles long waits to enter the base. Thousands more are already here. Close to 500,000 people will eventually be on hand to see the landing. On board, the astronauts suit up for entry. The ascent and orbital phases of the mission have gone extremely well. Now the final phase must be completed. Before that begins,
Columbia, you have a go for payload bay door closing.
the doors, which have been open a total of 47 hours during the flight, must now be closed. Then, using the RCS thrusters, Columbia will maneuver into deorbit burn attitude, head down and backwards, fire the OMS engines one last time, and descend into the Earth's atmosphere.
Nice and easy does it, John. We're all riding with you.
Columbia is out of contact during the OMS burn. Mission Control will not know if this burn was successful until they are in communication with the spacecraft over Australia. It is now over the Indian Ocean on the other side of the world, but from that distance the burn must be precise so that later Columbia will hit the lake bed target in California.
Columbia, this is Houston through Yargady. We're standing by.
Burn was on time at nominal. It is 110.
Columbia is now committed to entry. With an RCS post-burn maneuver and several firings, it is oriented to a heads-up, nose-first attitude headed toward entry interface. This is where the atmosphere begins, at approximately 400,000 feet. From that moment until the shuttle reaches 165,000 feet, it will be in communication blackout, out of touch with Mission Control for almost 20 minutes. The landing site is almost 4,400 miles from entry interface. Chase planes are preparing to take off. One will call out altitudes and check Columbia for any damage just prior to landing. When the shuttle touches down here, it will be traveling at 216 miles per hour. Right now it's going more than 17,000 miles per hour. Before it lands, it must slow down, lose energy, and it must survive the intense heat caused by traveling through the atmosphere at such a high rate of speed. Several S-turns or roll reversals are used to slow down and maneuver Columbia through the atmosphere. This one is done at 256,000 feet when it is traveling at more than 26 times the speed of sound. This one is done at 208,000 feet. During these two roll reversals, entry heating is most severe, with temperatures reaching 2,500 degrees some places on the vehicle. The aluminum skin will melt at 320 degrees. The silicate tiles must insulate the vehicle from the tremendous heat. Since there is no test facility on Earth to simulate the aerodynamic and structural environment Columbia is in right now, only calculations could be used to predict what would happen during this phase of the flight. The predictions and calculations had to be right.
Hello there, Houston. Columbia's here.
Hello, Columbia. Houston's here. How do you read?
Flying clear, and we're doing Mach 10.3 at 180 AS.
And we couldn't agree more, John. Your state vector's good. We've got good data in-house.
Okay.
The entry trajectory, velocity, and position look good. Columbia is heading for home, now only 470 miles away.
More left RCS, but okay. Right, we showing a roll.
And John, we're showing you rolling right. Looking good.
Right, normal roll.
We're showing crossing the coastline flag.
Columbia, we show you crossing the coast now.
Right, yeah. We can come.
The shuttle is first sighted at about 100,000 feet with a long-range camera from Anderson Peak, California.
What a way to come to California.
In flight battle, I still look perfect right on the nominal.
Roger that. Out of 112K, 4.8 Mach.
We're seeing this in a row.
We see Delaz 21 degrees.
A roll reversal is done over Bakersfield, California.
Oh, that's beautiful. Chase has a tally. Roger, checking.
And we're seeing 1.3 Gs coming around the hack.
Roger that.
The astronauts are making the final turn to line up with the runway.
Columbia, you're really looking good. Right on the money. Right on the money. And turning on the final, your winds on the surface are calm.
I got a win.
You're right on the glide slope, Columbia.
Yeah, clear, John. Looks real good underneath. Everything looks real good.
Chase reports no tile or other damages evident underneath the shuttle. Columbia's altitude is now just over 5,000 feet.
Pretty clear.
Without power, Columbia must land. It cannot make another attempt.
You're coming. You're down. Feet. 40, 30, 20, 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, touchdown. Those gears, come. 5, 4, 3, touchdown. Look it off, skipper. Columbia's on the roll.
Welcome home, Columbia. Beautiful, beautiful.
You want us to take it up in the hangar, Joe?
We're going to dust it off first.
This is the world's greatest all-electric flying machine, I'll tell you that. It was super.
Okay, convoy's on its way.
Convoy on. We'll stop on the Columbia. We'll stop.
The maiden voyage of Columbia has been a success. The astronauts and the vehicle have met or exceeded all 144 flight test objectives. The integrity of all the systems, propulsion, avionics, structural, flight control, power, and thermal, have been affirmed. John Young's comments after returning home.
I can't tell you what a tribute that is to the American working man and the American working woman, too. You can't imagine the variety of people who worked on this vehicle, from all walks of life, all capabilities and limitations. It's all due to their individual efforts. They proved that they can do the job. They proved it for the world to see. And I'm mighty proud to be associated with folks like that.
What a tribute indeed. The Columbia represents an achievement in aerospace technology and development never before realized in the history of manned spaceflight. It is our basic building block for the future.
It's what we've been trying to do for the last 10 years. We've got a vehicle with a payload performance that will allow us to do that, much cheaper than we've been able to do it before. It will immeasurably improve the defensive capability of the country. It will help develop space science and technology. When we get operational, the space shuttle will be able to do in 5 to 10 years what it would have taken us 20 to 30 years to do otherwise. We couldn't do it if we didn't have the space shuttle and that payload capability. And the sooner we do those things, the better off the country's going to be.
A revolutionary new era in space
Dude, what a monster.
transportation has just begun. Routine access to space.
It's my favorite thing,
Welcome
Pembo.
to the future.
That's my favorite, dude. I could watch this 1,000 freaking times. This shot right here, first of all. What a nice looking spacecraft that is. Man.
50 feet.
40,
40.
30, 20, 10,
10.
5.
5. 4.
Dude,
3.
butter.
2. 1. Touchdown.
Oh.
That
Oh.
was beautiful.
Butter.
5. 4. 3. Touchdown. Look about, skipper.
Houston, Columbia's on the rollout. It's awesome, Denny, isn't it?
Houston, Columbia's on the rollout.
I don't
Welcome
think
home,
so,
Columbia.
Reagan.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Avionics,
Why didn't we get
Structural,
Buran and the shuttle flying at the
flight
same time?
control,
Soviet Union went
power,
belly up.
and
RJ.
thermal have been affirmed. John
Man,
Young's
did you
comments
see me
after
fly?
returning home.
Dude, it's the best part. Did you see me fly that thing, man? I'm gonna shake your hand. Get over here, sir. Get over here. Come on over here. I'm gonna shake your hand. I don't know your name, but I'm gonna shake your hand too. Good job, man. Great job, man. Did you see this thing? You see me flying this thing? Oh, man. This thing's a beast. Still, it's so good, Pembo. It never gets old. That's so freaking cool. Oh, man. That's awesome. The reason why that's so cool, guys, is because, like, John Young was the Kimi Räikkönen of space. He never showed any emotions. Guy landed on the moon. He's like, man, that's cool. Guy came back. They're like, how does it feel to go to the moon? He's like, it's far away. But we went there. I did what I needed to do, and yeah. Yeah, it's cool. The guy never showed emotion. He went to the freaking moon twice. One time just in orbit, right? And then the second time landing. He was on Apollo 10, he was on Apollo 16. Like, you guys been to the moon, he's been everywhere. He just flew the space shuttle, right? Comes back from flying the space shuttle. You think this guy had fun? Look, to see him even smile was like, huh? The guy's freaking punked. See me? I just put this thing right down on the ground. This thing's a beast. And yes, for the people that are asking, they are SR-71 suits. They're SR-71 derived. Mm-hmm. Look at, they're like, John, look at the guys. Like, John, please get back in the truck. You need to get back in the truck for debrief. He's like, hell no. Hell no. Man, did you see that? He's looking around, and then look, this is the best part. He's walking around, and then he notices there's guys over there, and then he realizes those guys are in scape suits because there's hydrazine, and he's like, oh, nope, never mind. But he's like, oh man, this is good. See the guy in the scape suit? A hydrazine for powering down the shuttle. He's like, oh, scape suits. Yeah, you guys did good. Thumbs up. All right, yep, can't be over there. Yep. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's a wind turbine. Yep. And Crip, years of Crip said, I tell you what, boy, you see me flying that thing, boy? And then the pen flip. Boom. I was like, that's pretty neat. Oh, that's awesome. That makes me happy. Let's take her out again. Oh, I wish, man. Thing was god tier. Dude, I don't mean to be a pain in the butt. Capsules just don't do it for me. I grew up with this. Yeah, Dragon is cool. I love it. It's awesome. It's moving people into space. I love it. Starliner is cool. It's great. I'm super happy that these vehicles are flying. Even Dream Chaser. Dream Chaser's cool, right? I love it. I love Dream Chaser probably more than the others. But don't tell nobody that. It doesn't compare. It does not. That thing is awesome. Get any sleep? No. What is sleep? Was that a T-38 in the background? It was? Yep. No wonder why you like Dream Chaser more. Starship will be better. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, no. Starship is carrying the torch, man. Until the 2 lost mission, these felt like Buck Rogers. And you know what sucks, Denny, is Challenger happened because of gross incompetence. That's what sucks. Is there any shuttle capability that future Starship can't do? No. Starship is like Shuttle 2.0. It's like a better version of the Space Shuttle. And it can go to other planets, which is even better. But, man, you guys got to remember, that's a first attempt. It's a first attempt. That's a first attempt at a reusable vehicle. Not something like Dream Chaser, not even reusing a capsule. They reused a Gemini capsule once during the Gemini program. The capsule that launched on Gemini 2 was reused. But Gemini 2 was an uncrewed mission. So they did reuse a capsule during the Gemini program, but this was the first truly reusable vehicle. That was a first attempt. Are you freaking kidding me? And they did that with the budget of the Gemini program. The shuttle was engineered on the same with the same budget adjusted for inflation as the Gemini program. Can you believe that? What a beast mode of a freaking vehicle they made. Unbelievable. You grew up with capsules till you were 11 years old, Everest. They still can't beat it. Dude, it's so freaking cool. How much you think them guys got paid for that flight? GS-13. GS-13 all day. Especially John Young. But, Gully, let's be real. John Young ain't doing that for the money. John Young didn't agree to fly this thing for the cash. He agreed to fly this thing because he wanted to fly. He wanted to go fast. He wanted to fly a big, beautiful bird up into space and bring it back down. And he did damn well. Amazing. What a freaking monster that vehicle is. Unbelievable. It's crazy. It's still ridiculous. Guys, the payload bay is the size of Falcon 9's fairing. Actually, Falcon 9's fairing could almost fit inside of the shuttle's payload bay. It's just, you don't know how big one of these things is until you get up near it. And then you realize, if you guys do go see shuttles in the future, or if you've already seen them, you realize that this was the first attempt. This was the first attempt at reusing something. Ever. Like, we didn't even reuse Apollo capsules. No. This was the first attempt. Unfreaking believable. Unbelievable. What a monster of a vehicle. I was in shock when in DC you saw one 4 years ago. Paper City, it's so cool. Dude, you could stand inside of the nozzle of the RS-25 and do this and maybe touch the other side. Those are huge engines. It's just... Ugh. She's an absolute beast mode of a vehicle. The shuttle is cooler than Starship? RJ, that's easy to say when the shuttle is flown and Starship hasn't, you know? When Starship comes back down and lands, it will be cool. Too bad it locked us in Leo for 3 decades, but at least it looks cool. But seriously, easily the most baller re-entry vehicle ever. Yeah. Boxer, you know what sucks? It didn't have to be that way. It didn't have to be that way. The shuttle could build transfer vehicles, man. They had all this cool stuff planned for this thing, and then they never did any of it. Like, it didn't have to be that way. Could the shuttle survive a belly landing? The orbiter would be relatively in one piece, goalie, but I wouldn't reuse it. It would pretty much be junk if you bellied it. You could have done crazy things with this, man. Like, we looked up a Space Station Freedom PDF one time, and we saw what they wanted to do. And, oh, man. They wanted to use... So, okay, here. Start off Space News. We'll start off Space News with a little bit of a history lesson. So the shuttle's secondary objective was supposed to build Space Station Freedom. So if Space Station Freedom looks a little bit familiar, yeah. Space Station Freedom morphed into the ISS. So it's very similar. But it wasn't always this unified truss segment thingamajigger. It wasn't always this. Space Station Freedom went through a couple of different iterations. The first one was the power tower concept, where they had the space station on the end of the truss segment and the solar panels in the center. And they did that, so I think it was for sensing equipment up here. I forget the idea. I forget the reason. And this thing could naturally use gravity to kind of stay oriented, I think was what they wanted to do. That was cool. And then they had the dual keel, which is not here. Then they had the dual keel station, which was absurd. It would have been insane. So the dual keel station is... You have a horizontal truss segment, and you put the modules on the horizontal truss segment, but you have 2 vertical truss segments in a keel configuration. The idea is that you keep your sensing equipment up here, right? And you can keep communications and whatnot down here. If you notice, there's a Hubble servicing bay attached to the keel. The idea is that the RMS, the remote manipulator system, right, which on the real ISS does move. It's on a little trolley, actually. There's a little trolley that goes along the truss segments, and the RMS can attach to it, and they can move the RMS out if they need to change the solar panels or whatever, right? This trolley would have been able to work in 2 axes. So that you could see the trolley right there. It could switch, and then it could go vertical. It could go vertical, and it could go up here. It could go down here. And the reason why they built this lower keel for the space station is because they wanted to build ships down here. They wanted to use this space station, to build transfer vehicles. So the shuttle would come up. It could take its payload out, hand it over to this, like what they did when they were attaching a pressurized mating, a multi-purpose logistical module. Space shuttle would grab it out. It would hand it over to the next space station remote manipulator. It would hand it over to this, and they would dock the MPLM to the space station, right? Same exact idea. They came up with that idea from this. And basically this thing could take parts out, right, out of the shuttle's payload bay, because if you notice, the truss segment is underneath the modules, not modules beneath the truss segment. They could drive this thing into position, pluck the module out, go down here with it, and use it to build a spacecraft down here for a transfer vehicle to go to the moon, to go to Mars, go wherever. That's what they wanted to do with the dual keel design, but then they got rid of it for the revised baseline, which is what this one is. And they figured that you could do the same things with this if you really wanted to. You could just build the vehicles out here on the sides of the truss segment and go from there. And they said, oh, you know, the dual kill is going to be... The dual kill was like the highballing idea. This is what... If NASA could get this, then it would have been amazing. Like, frick the ISS. The ISS is trash compared to this. In my... that's opinion. That's opinion. That's opinion. Relax. And you could build spacecraft, and this thing, Space Station Freedom, would have been in a 28-degree inclined orbit. 28 degrees inclined. Meaning that Hubble servicing missions, the space shuttle could go grab Hubble, bring it back to the space station because they're in the same inclination, and then it could take an RMS and put it in the servicing bay up there. And work on it, work on the satellite during an EVA, and not have to worry about micrometeorites pelting you or the satellite. That's the reason why Hubble's in the background. That's not Hubble, Edmund. That's a transfer vehicle. That's not Hubble. Hubble's right there. Hubble's solar panels don't look exactly like that. The Hubble solar panels go vertical. They go this way. They're not that way. Like this, not like this. That's a transfer vehicle. The idea was the shuttle was going to build them down here, and the transfer vehicles would fly out to the freaking moon. And look, NASA even had proposed ideas for microwave. I think these things are microwave dishes, so like they could beam electrical power down and stuff. They had all kinds of cool ideas, man. It was, and then they said, "Nah, don't do that. We don't have the budget." So they basically left NASA. NASA was going to build Space Station Freedom until the Cold War ended, and they basically said, work with the Russians or we'll shut you down. And then they promptly defunded a vast majority of Space Station Freedom because the Russians are going to... We don't need all these modules because the Russians are going to provide some modules. And then we got the ISS. The ISS is Space Station Freedom Light. And don't get me wrong, I like working with the Russians. I still don't mind it, even to this day. I don't mind working with Roscosmos. Say a little something different about the government, but whatever. They probably think the same about us. Whatever. I don't mind working with them. I think they're good dudes. They know what they're doing in space. But man, this would have been really freaking cool. Yeah. Transfer vehicles, Hubble servicing bays, tri-keel station, dude. Will we build stations like this using Starship? I hope so. Yeah, they had mock-ups of Space Station Freedom. They were going to do it, and then basically the modules that were already, like, past CDR and stuff, they said keep those, and then they scrapped a bunch of modules even for the ISS because, oh, we didn't have the money. NASA got gutted in the 90s. Badly. Because they're like, oh, well, we'll just use the Russian stuff. We'll just use the Russian stuff along with the shuttle. You know, oh, you don't need to build a space station. Just use the Russian space station. I have words. I'm not going to say it. I think I've conveyed the point. I think I conveyed the point pretty well. Okay, so let's jump into space news. Here we go. Check this out. This is coming from Joey Roulette, and he's over at Reuters. Here, let's see. Actually, let me transfer all the links. There's some pretty interesting news about Mars sample return. NASA had a huge press conference on it this afternoon. And then we do need to go through Zach Golden thread about Starbase. So he's Zach over at CSI Starbase. We do have that. And then there's a bunch of other things. Yeah. That aged well. Yeah, Bauxy. There was a lot of stupid decisions that we made in the 90s, man. Like, oh, I don't know, opening up China to trade and putting the American worker basically on par with slave labor. Yeah, I got a problem with that. Yeah, a lot of stupid decisions. Anyway, moving on. Here's some good news. Here's some good news. You want to hear good news? You want to hear some good news? I was right, baby. Worse than 2011? No, Driados, not that bad. No. All made in Taiwan, indeed. So check this out. Vladimir Soloviev, who is the chief engineer of Roscosmos, basically clarified a statement that Yuri Borzimov said yesterday. Yuri Borzimov said basically, oh, we're pulling out in 2024. We're pulling out of the ISS. Roscosmos is pulling out of the ISS in 2024. And I immediately said, that's bullcrap. No, you are not. There's no way that's happening. I cited certain specific examples. The specific examples are Roscosmos wants to launch their own space station, a space station called ROS, so the Russian Orbital Station. Cool, that's fine. Don't have a problem with that. Now, a little bit on ROSS before we go. ROS, it was called ROSS, but now they call it ROS, whatever. So the Russian station will be in a 97.3 or 97.8 degree inclined orbit. It will be the first space station ever in a sun-synchronous orbit, meaning it's highly inclined retrograde polar orbit. So the space station will fly over the same spot every day at the same time because it's sun synchronous. It uses Earth's precession to image the same spot every day. The reason why the Russians say they're going to do this is because they want to be able to see all of Russia from their space station. That's fine. I understand that. That makes sense. Sure. Cool. The Russian space station is going to be the first clean sheet design by Russia since the Soviet Union. Even the module, even the Nauka, the science module that they launched, in the Prichal module that they attached to the space station a couple of years ago, that seems like, I remember before those things launched. Anyway, a couple of years ago, they're all ex-Soviet designs. They were all designed during the Soviet Union. The Russian orbital segment will be the first Russian-designed space station, not Soviet. So, I know the thread, Phil. I read the thread this morning. So, when did they plan on flying ROS? When did they plan on doing that? So, they plan, what Yuri Borzimov, the new head of Roscosmos, was saying yesterday is that they'll have the space station up and running by 2024, which is nonsense. No one could make a space station that fast. Nobody. These modules take time. They take time, they take a lot of effort. It's really hard to keep humans alive up in space. It's really hard to make a station that sits there up in the atmosphere for long, or up out of the atmosphere for long periods of time. It's hard to make a long duration vehicle, even if it's just a space station. Ask the ISS. The ISS it takes a lot to maintain it, but it's so worth it, right? So no one can engineer modules that quickly. Not even SpaceX. They would not be able to engineer a module that fast. I mean, maybe SpaceX would. I don't know, but probably not. They want to have the first module for the space station up and running by 2024, which is what the head of Roscosmos said yesterday. I immediately called bullcrap on that. There's no way that's happening. No way. Because if you do that and you pull out of the ISS, this is what I said yesterday. If you pull out of the ISS in 2024, I guarantee you that space station will not be finished. And then Soyuz is going to have no mission. So if they leave the ISS in 2024, and this isn't even about sticking it to the Americans or we need them here because we need a station, blah, 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 blah. I'm talking about the Russian space program, looking at it from a Russian perspective. If you do that, there's no way that ROS will be done in time. Not a chance in hell. Even if they put foot to tail, not a chance. It took NASA way longer than that. Not even SpaceX can go that fast on design iteration, right? And remember, they're clean sheeting a design. It's not Soviet derived. So the ROS will be new from the ground up. So what is that going to do? You're going to stop flying to the ISS in 2024, and your station is not going to be done until like 2026, 2027. So Soyuz is just going to have 3 years of downtime. Yeah, you could basically kiss Soyuz goodbye if you do that. And hopefully you have a replacement done by the time the station is done. Right? That's what I said. That's probably not going to happen. It's probably just talk. And then this came out today. Vladimir Soloviev, the chief engineer of Roscosmos, came out and clarified a lot of the statements that were made yesterday. Basically saying, talking about ROS and what it is and where it's going, but Russian space officials told their U.S. counterparts on Tuesday that Moscow expects to remain on the ISS at least until the country's own outpost in orbit is built in 2028. Soyuz 5 is a paper rocket is the end of that sentence. See? Look. Right there. They're worried about their space station. They're worried about a stopgap in human spaceflight. That's fair. The reason why I said that you can kiss Soyuz goodbye if you get rid of the space station is once upon a time, I remember when a certain orbital vehicle finished building the stupid thing in the first place, and then we retired it, and we were like, nah, it's fine. Another thing will be available in 3 to 4 years. It's no problem. Yeah, 10 years later, we relied on the Russians for a decade to get to the space station. The reason why I said this isn't because the Russians going to leave the space station. Oh, they're going to screw us, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm not worried about that. You could kiss Soyuz goodbye if you pull out in 2024 because it's going to have nothing to fly to. You don't stop a space program like that. That's an extraordinarily bad idea. Your supply chains for Soyuz will go down the toilet really, really fast. And it seems like, and once again, I'm not saying this in retrospective of this tweet. I said this all yesterday if you look at the space news. And it turns out that Vladimir Soloviev, the chief general designer of RC Energia, he's one of the chief engineers of their program, seems to agree with me on that one. See what I mean? What's the difference between Soyuz 5 and Angara? The name? No, different engines. Soyuz 5 has an RD-170 in it. RD-170 MV, or 171 MV, excuse me. Make, I've already read the thread. I read this all this morning. I told you I didn't sleep. Go figure. Why do you think I got another cup of coffee trying to keep me going? Yeah, a gap in human spaceflight. Denny, I didn't say that because I want the Russians to be our lapdog on the space station or anything. Or we need them to keep our space station going, so you need to keep doing what you're doing. I said that because you'll screw your own space program more than you already have. And like I said, cooler head seems to have prevailed on this one. What is the Soyuz doing now? It's hauling astronauts and cosmonauts. Guys, I said... Okay, the day that Russia decided to boogaloo this year, the day that I said that, I got 1,000 questions asking what's going to happen with the space station. And you know what my answer was? Probably nothing. I said that February 25th, the day after the boogaloo started. Day after stuff started going down, right? I said that the day after. Probably nothing. Probably nothing. And I'm right. I was right. I was 100% right. Nothing is going to happen. It's just all talk. No one's pulling out of the ISS. The stakes are too high. Spaceflight doesn't work like how stuff works on the ground. Cooler heads always prevail. And right when Yuri Borzimov, the same guy that said they're going to pull out in 2024, right when he came into office a couple weeks ago, he said that crew exchange is back on the menu. So Americans are going to fly on Soyuz, even now, and Russians are going to fly on commercial crew capsules, even now. Anna Kikna is scheduled, a Russian cosmonaut, she's scheduled to fly on Crew 5 on September 29th. You can't pull out of this. It would be catastrophically bad for their space program if they did. And it's not just notwithstanding of the fact that the ISS would basically be screwed when the Russians decide to leave. Cooler heads always prevail in space. We're mixing crews even now because you have to. The ISS, you have to have an American up there. You have to have a native English speaker and you have to have a native Russian speaker up there at the same time. The only way to do that safely and reliably is to mix crews. Have Americans fly on Soyuz. Have Russians fly on Starliner and Dragon. That's always been the right way to do it. You don't want only Russians up there and something goes wrong with the American side of the station and then having a huge language barrier. And then American components, Russian components, all made in Taiwan. No, Solovyov is a different person. So, guys, like I said, nothing is going to happen. 2028, I mean, the guy in the White House said we want to use the ISS until 2030, which is... Okay. If you want to do that, remember, some of those modules that are on the space station were built during Space Station Freedom. That was in the 80s. Some of them are pushing 40 years old. Zarya and Zvezda. It's the Russian word for star, and I forget what Zvezda. I forget what those modules. I forget what the names are. Anyway, those modules were made in the Soviet Union for the Mir 2 space station in the late 80s. These modules are old. They weren't designed to last this long. Zvezda is star. I forget what Zarya is, but that makes sense. But I thought it was a requirement of all astronauts to speak English. You have to speak the language of the spacecraft that you're flying on. You have to speak the native language of the commander, Livin. Absolutely. I'm excited for the Artemis 1 mission. Yeah, of course, space. Yeah, me too. The Russian space station will fly only on paper. Perhaps here's the thing. I don't doubt the Russians. I think they'll build it. I think they will build ROS. I think they'll do it. I think that it's going to take a lot more time. 2024 is completely unrealistic. 2028 for ROS, I can believe that. Sure, that is a perfectly reasonable timeline. Now, whether that's going to happen in time, don't know. Aren't all ISS goers required to know both? Not necessarily, Driados. If an American flies on Soyuz, you got to know Russian. And if a Russian flies on Dragon or Starliner or the shuttle back in the day, you have to know English. Wait, so was the ISS designed for continuing development, or does it have an actual expiration date? Well, the way we built it, Airbanas, the way the USOS, the US operational segment is built, is designed to be modular, so you could take modules off and bring new ones up. It's almost like we designed it to do that. The problem is we retired the vehicle that it was designed to do that with. Matt, thanks for the raid, man. How are you? I'm just here saying my normal thing about how the shuttle going away was bad. Hide the pain. Hide the pain. Or use Starship. Well, that's my hope, that Starship will bring the ISS down. Seriously. I'm hoping Starship will go and grab Hubble, and I hope it'll go grab the ISS modules. So the usual. Yeah. It's almost like we had a vehicle that could do that. But anyway. So here, if you guys want to read this thread's by Katya Pavlichenko. So she kind of translates all the news coming out of Russia. And I haven't really been following what the Russian space program has been doing, but let's see. At the first phase, the Russian orbital station will be placed on a sun-synchronous orbit with an altitude of 334 at 96.8. That's what it was. I said 97.8. Later, it will be changed to 372, 96.9. Okay. This will allow to observe most of the territory of Russia, and not only Russia, as Soloviev noticed. Yeah, of course. A sun-synchronous orbit it's a polar orbit. It's a slightly retropolar orbit. You'll be able to see everything, but you'll only be able to see certain parts at certain times of the day. I.e., because it's in a sun-synchronous orbit, if they sync it with flying over Moscow during the day, for instance, they'll never fly over the U.S. during the day. That's what sun-synchronous orbits do. They use Earth's non-uniform gravitational pull to perturb the orbit to basically time it so you go over the same spot at the same time every day. So, this orbit will allow to conduct a study of both Earth poles with optical, infrared, ultraviolet, radio, and other detectors, and will also allow to track the movement of various objects in the areas of poles, which is an important scientific experiment. In addition, a station on this orbit is less protected with the Earth magnetosphere from the space radiation. Basically, because they're flying over the boreals. Yeah, it'd be like flying into deep space. which will help conduct medical experiments about the reaction of the human body on this radiation and create the protection from it. Here's a funny one. Check this out. ROSS will work mostly in automatic mode, without human presence on board, but it may be visited if needed. As a result, the station will be used more efficiently, not only from scientific but also from an economic point of view. Being a visited station, ROSS will allow scientists to conduct more experiments which were not possible to conduct on the ISS and Mir. For example, because they both had a steady orientation in orbit. Here I should note that in spring 2021, I was told that the NEM was the first module of ROSS. Will have no gyroscopes on it, but this may be changed at the time it will be launched. They're not going to put no SAS, fellas. No SAS lock. Basically, just heading hold is what this station has. If I'm going to speak in Kerbal terms, basically, it won't. The ISS moves like this. It moves with Earth's orbit. So, the truss segment on the ISS will always be parallel with the ground. Except for that one time when they tried to dock a module to it, but that's another story. Just so you know, there's an extension that you get that is called Minimal Theme for Twitter, and it hides all the crap on the right. I'm not paying attention to the crap on the right, Livid. Why are you? If it ever gets tumbling, there will be no stopping it. It won't have a gyro on it, Creation, but that doesn't mean they can't use the RCS to get it to stop. That's fine. Soloviev have noticed also that the permanent presence of the crew takes a lot of energy produced by the station, and without the crew, this energy may be used for experiments. Not to mention that it's very expensive. The crew will be sent to the Russian station only for a period of 1 to 2 months to conduct experiments and perform repair work, and only when there is something to do. Soloviev believes this is a step forward, not backwards, in using low Earth orbit for the benefit of humanity. The ROSS will be built in 2 phases. The first phase will begin in 2028 with launching NEM, the basically one of the core modules, with 2 crew cabins and a toilet on an Angara A5 from Vostochny. Here he says that it should be equipped with gyros and other systems that will allow it to use it in automatic mode first. Okay, so it does. Okay, so yeah, that was bullcrap. It does have gyroscopes on it. Cool. I read this thread when I was waking up. I forgot about that. Oh. You guys ever have one of those nights where you go to bed, but you don't really go to sleep? You sleep for like 15 minutes on, 15 minutes off, basically the entire night. Yeah, I had that kind of night. So, yeah. Sweet. Sorry, I was up all night looking at those plans. I'm not even kidding. Hubble would look good next to Discovery. Yeah, you're not kidding. What could be some pros and cons of a station in geosynchronous? Why? I mean, you could put it, you get some good deep space research, but why? What are you going to do? If you're going to get a station to geosynchronous, it actually has the potential to. If you're going to put a station in geosynchronous, it actually has the potential of costing more delta V than going to the moon to get to said station. Think about it. How is that, EJ, how is that even possible? Well, the moon has gravitational pull, does it not? Some of that gravitational pull pulls you in. And it requires less delta V to step on the brakes because the moon's gravity can pull you in, coupled with a good retro burn. It actually costs less delta V to get out near the moon, especially that rectilinear halo orbit where Gateway is going. A geostation could be useful, but an NRHO station like Gateway would be even better for deep space research, and you also have the moon right there. It's not that it would be necessarily bad, it would be good for deep space research, but yeah. No, I'd rather have Gateway if we're going to do that. So it's a serviceable, configurable, and occupiable station. It's basically synonymous in function with Gateway, actually. Only the Russian station is in a sun-synchronous orbit, and our space station is at the moon. I was curious if there would be any unique opportunities for a station in GEO. Yeah, it's not that there wouldn't be, Def, and I don't know what the exact things are, but also at the same time, there's more unique opportunities in a rectilinear orbit out by the moon, where Gateway is going. It's not that GEO is bad. It's that Gateway's better, because there's the moon next to you. Let's see. In the same year, alright, so it was built in 2 phases, got that. Okay, in the same year, a node module with 6 docking ports and an airlock module will be installed, will be launched on another A5, an Angara A5, and this will allow to send the first crew to begin the operation of the Russian orbital segment. Later, at the first phase, a base module will be added. A base module will provide 2 additional sleeping phases and a second toilet, which will allow to have 4 cosmonauts on board. Both NEM and base modules will provide 55 kilovolts of power. This is more than enough for most of the experiments. That's actually, yeah, it's a good amount. Good amount. The first crews will fly to the Russian station on Soyuz twice a year from Baikonur, and cargo will be delivered by Progress. It is expected that in the 2030s, the first phase will be completed. Very optimistic plan in your humble opinion. At the second phase, another 2 big modules, a purpose module and a production module, and a partly pressurized service platform for the maintenance of the satellites will be added. The service platform will provide a possibility to re-equip, refuel, and resend into orbit satellites with the help of interorbital tugs specifically designed for that. Spy satellites. In the production module, that's actually kind of cool. It will be possible to conduct different experiments in the field of space technologies, biotechnology, nanotechnology, micro, and nanoelectrics. The same applies to solving urgent problems in the field of biotechnology. Cool. This module will be a place to store necessary equipment and details. There will also be a place for assembly and testing of automatic devices and for preparation, adjustment, and repair of equipment. The purpose module will be equipped with the universal workplaces, URMs, so basically the Russian equivalent of ISS space station racks, to place experiments inside and outside the module like it was made to do on Nauka. It is expected that the second phase, the crew and cargo, will be delivered to ROSS using Oryol, which is the Russians' Eagle capsule. Oryol is the Russian word for eagle. And the spacecraft launched on the A5. Huh. Interesting. It has like a open air trunk like Dragon almost. Soloviev believes it is necessary to continue to use the Russian segment of the ISS until the first phase of ROSS will be ready to launch. See? Smart. Overlap. Overlap is what keeps your program alive. And to not have a pause in crew flights. Bingo. Bingo. See? Soloviev knows what the hell he's talking. He knows what he's talking about. That guy's smart. There are some ideas that may be implemented to the project of ROSS later, including the transformable module with a short-range centrifuge. According to Soloviev, ROSS is a necessary step for crewed flights to the moon. Or they could just come with us, but they don't want to do that. He noted that the first crew Soyuz ships will be launched from Baikonur on a Soyuz 21B, which is more capable than 21A that launches Soyuzes to the ISS. Using 21B, it will be possible to launch a crew of 3 members to the ROS. Keep in mind, guys, the Soyuz 21B does launch 3 people to the ISS right now, but it takes way more delta V to get into a polar orbit than even a high inclined orbit like the ISS. If the decision to build ROSS will be made, the article was written before yesterday's news. In 2022, the article was written before yesterday's news. Interesting. In 2022, RSC Energia will begin to create a preliminary design of ROSS to launch the first module in 2028. See, that's a much more realistic timeline. And Whitney, see, the reason why I saw this thread is because Whitney tagged me. I pretty much agree with everything here from an engineering standpoint, fellas. The only thing that I think is a really stupid idea is this one. I don't think that's a good idea. This right here and not keeping Soyuz's flight rate that it currently has is... No. Soyuz in progress need to keep flying at the rate that they're flying at, or else you're going to go backwards. Wasn't Energia an 80s rockets? Yeah, an 80s rocket, yes. It's the Russian word for energy. It's a design bureau. So Energia is a state-owned corporation. Joint stock company is what JSC and I forget what RSC stands for. It's basically like an LLC, or Germans have like GmbH. Italy has SPA. I don't know what England has alleviate for like a company, like a limited liability company. I don't know what you guys call it. It's LTD. There you go. Yeah. That's what it is. It's wholly owned. It says joint stock company, but it's wholly owned by the state. The kind of Western equivalent would be like Lockheed or Northrop or SpaceX. It's a design bureau. That's basically their defense. It's a defense contractor. RSC Energia is a defense contractor. They make all kinds of stuff. Yeah, there you go. Mm-hmm. They can have the same flight rate with shorter stays, but he says they're only going to send somebody up there when there's something to do. I think that's bad. I think that lowering your flight rate is a very bad idea. Not because it's bad for me as an American. If anything, them flying more, you know, as an American is probably not a good thing. But that will tank your space program. I seriously, you're gonna screw with the flight rate. Screwing with the flight rate like that and changing production rates for spacecraft, bad idea. Bad idea. I will say that right now. That's the only idea I think is a little bonkers, but other than that, everything that Soloviev says makes a lot more sense. That guy knows what he's talking about. He's a good engineer. And honestly, like, if the Russians want to leave the ISS in 2028, I don't have a problem with that. I wish we could go to the moon together. That would be kind of cool, but that really doesn't seem to happen. The Russians want to be the Russian space program has said many times that they want to be a mutual partner, like they are in the ISS, and they don't want to basically ride shotgun on an Orion capsule just to get to the moon. So, I suppose I understand that. As an American, I wouldn't want to fly like on a Chinese rocket to the moon. Not because I have anything against China or anything like that. I wouldn't want an American flying an American rocket to the moon, right? And if, you know, us, China, and Russia had like a joint base on the moon that each one of us could get our own rockets to, I wouldn't have a problem with that. That would be cool. I'd be fine with that. So, like, basically think for all mankind minus the stupidity. Kind of like that. Wouldn't have a problem with it. Is it possible this is with an eye to eventually the end of Roscosmos? No. No. Soloviev is making do with what he has. Their space program is in a really weird spot. Rogozin tanked all the deals that they had. All the income that Roscosmos had for all this research and development got tanked. He pulled out of the OneWeb deal. He wiped his butt with the contract and said, go frick yourself, OneWeb. There's still OneWeb satellites sitting in, what is it, Vostochny. He ain't giving them back. He tried to hold OneWeb satellites. So I saw what he was trying to do. He was trying to play poker. He said, you're going to sanction me? Fine, I'm not launching your satellites. And OneWeb said, fine, frick you. We'll get somebody else to launch the satellites. And he said, wait, what? He tried to play poker, and it didn't work. It really didn't work. He tanked an $8 million contract or something? $8 billion? It was something absurd. And then he said ExoMars is dead because the Europeans don't like us. Even though the Europeans are like, we still want to do ExoMars. He said, no, I'm not doing that because you don't like me. Because because of sanctions. Basically, he tried to hold sanctions over every type of space project that he has. The ISS is the only one they have left. All their other projects, Venera, ExoMars, are all dead in the water. Even the European robotic arm that's on the Nauka module that's on the ISS right now, he deactivated it. Like, I've been saying while all this stuff has happened that it's terrible for their space program. This is terrible. You have nothing left. What are you doing? Tried to play checkers when it was chess. And, I don't know. I hope Yuri Borsimov doesn't have his head up his tail, but judging by what he said yesterday, I don't know, man. So whenever I report on the Russian space program, guys, I try not to think about it from an American perspective. I try to think about from more of a Russian perspective. Like, what does that mean? I don't understand Russian culture, but I know what a successful space program would be. Like, I understand the sanctions and I understand not wanting to work with us on things. I get it. It's pretty straightforward stuff, right? Like, but I'm like super worried because like what you have no income. Is the state going to invest in the company? The state won't invest in the company. You got to remember, Roscosmos is a state-owned corporation. They're a corporation that is publicly traded where the state is the majority shareholder in the company. Meaning, so what does that mean? That means that because they're a company, they have to make profit. They have to make profit for this state. Understand? They tanked all of their income. The ISS is the only one that's generating any profit now. And you want to pull out of that? Your space program's you might as well put your space program in a casket and take it out back and shoot it. I don't think this is a good idea. That flight rate is no good. Now, don't get me wrong. The Russian space program can be totally self-sufficient by themselves if they get their own space station to launch. They can do that. They know how to launch people into space, guys. It's not like they don't know what they're doing. The engineering is the engineering. You're going to try to tell me that Soyuz is a bad rocket? No way. Not a chance. Soyuz is a great rocket. It's one of the best rockets ever designed, ever. One of the most reliable and well-engineered pieces of equipment around. Right? So, there's no way that if they get ROS done on time before the ISS gets decommissioned, I suppose it's not that big of a deal. But if the ISS gets decommissioned and ROS isn't done, you got a big problem. Soyuz has no place to go, so why have it? What's stopping the state from saying, no, we don't need Soyuz, we need all these design bureaus making guns for the war effort? They're going to pull the plug. I mean, Rogue, I was saying, like, maybe it's not the end of Roscosmos, but I wouldn't want to see that. That would suck. That would really suck. It sucks seeing space flight tech like that go down the tubes, like what happened to Buran and Venture Star and DCX. Even seeing the Saturn V go down the tubes, and N1 and Energia. That really sucks. What's going to happen to the Russian segment? Well, if the Russians leave the space station in 2024, their space program's basically trash. Some people might, some have said that, they're going to work with the Chinese. But, okay, you're going to work with the Chinese, and the Chinese have a better, more upgraded version of Soyuz flying right now. Yeah, about that whole mutual partners thing. I mean, the Chinese will run your space program into the ground. Because that's what they do. China's in it for China. I don't blame them. That's fine. I get it. Like, that makes perfect sense. By the way, for them having someone sensible in command is anything impossible. All the head of the Russian agencies are bootleggers. That's how corruption works. Yep. Yeah, and I was willing to give Rogozin the benefit of the doubt because I think he actually liked spaceflight. I think he actually was a space fan. His dad worked on Buran and stuff, and I can respect that. You know, he did fix a lot of things at Roscosmos. He got rid of a lot of corruption, to be fair. But they also did that by nationalizing the company and basically, saying, hey, this privately owned company, that's ours now. So I always thought Dmitry did a good job. He did the best of what he could do with, going back and forth between what Roscosmos needs and what the guy in the freaking Kremlin wants, right? Like, I always thought he was a good intermediary until February of this year when he went off the rails bananas. Like, I'm like, oh, nope, you're okay. Have fun with that, bro. We all want, and it would have been nice, but man, old habits die hard, I guess, man. I mean, I don't need to tell you that, dude. You know, you're their next door neighbor. And then he got promoted. Yeah, I mean, because he's good at logistics, Buck. Look at how he turned Roscosmos around. Roscosmos supply chains are 10,000 kilometers long. That would be the equivalent, like, he's a good logistics guy. That would be the equivalent of making rockets in Alaska and launching them in Florida and not being able to use a barge or water. Think about that for a second. He orchestrated that pretty damn well. He did a pretty good job. Like, credit where credit is due. Rogozin was always crazy. There's a reason they banned him from entering the States in 2014. Well, Bauxy, from what I understand, he's been a member of certain political parties that would be frowned upon in the West, to say the least. Railways, easy. Oh, okay. China will work with them up to the point. Well, caveman, that's what I'm trying to tell you. When the Soviet Union collapsed, China got licenses for all that technology anyway. What is China's incentive to work with Russia? Why the hell would they do that? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? They already have a better version of Soyuz. They already have better versions of their modules. Why would they even bother with some old ex-Soviet junk spacecraft? What, Oriol? Come on, it's China. They'll be like, we can make better than that. China's in it for China. I don't blame them. I'm American. I'm in it for America. You know what I mean? Like, I'd love to work with other countries, but if we got to do it ourselves, we'll do it ourselves. That's fine. That seems pretty fair to me. You know what I mean? To hurt the U.S.? Yeah, but if anything, it won't hurt it'll hurt the U.S. rogue, but it'll also bog their space program down. Because now you have an international partner with a bunch of outdated tech. So what are you going to do? And I'm not saying the Russians couldn't engineer something new. They're smart. I know they know what's going on. And to be fair, the Chinese are getting pretty damn good at spaceflight nowadays. Like, how often would I say that? Yeah, Buck, that's what I'm saying. They ain't going to work together. If they do, it's not going to be a mutual thing. You know what I mean? And isn't that the reason why Roscosmos didn't want to work with us going to the moon? Because they wanted to be a mutual partner? What the hell do you think China's going to do? You think that's going to be a mutual relationship? No, okay. One stolen guidance. Yeah, Intelsat 703. Ando, I want to find the person that okayed Intelsat 703 and punch them square in the mouth, like, repeatedly. Why did we think that was a good idea? Why did we think that was a good idea? There's a reason why Sergei Lavrov is visiting Africa. Friends are getting hard to find. Yep. Yeah, the rocket malfunctioned. Did it even have the guidance system on it? Probably not. What's the story with Intelsat? Sayo, a lot of people don't like that the U.S. won't work with China on anything. And they think that we're just stonewalling them because, we don't want them to be on our level, right? No, there is some very dude, there's some very bad unfinished business there. Yeah, it's complicated. In the 90s, because of the dot-com boom, commercial satellites were the commercial satellite market was booming, and people were looking for a cheaper way to do things. People looking a lot of cheaper ways to do things in the 90s. We were trying to find a cheaper way to go into space. So China was like, hey, we have Long March 3. Long March 3 will be just fine. Like, you could launch it on our rocket. And we said, we can't launch it on your rocket. You don't have the right avionics to work with our satellite. And the Chinese said, you could give us the avionics and we'll launch it. And someone, somewhere said, oh yeah, that's fine. That's a good idea. You're not going to steal it, right? Oh, no. Intelsat 703 went to launch in the late 90s, and the rocket, you know what? I'll show you. Or is it 708? It's 708, not 703, excuse me. I misspoke. Oh yeah, that's it landing in a village nearby. Remember how I always have a problem with China launching rockets near villages? Yeah, that landed in a village, by the way. Hypergalls. Long March 3. Hypergolic. What happened right after that is that all Americans that were associated with this thing, Intelsat, all the engineers that came over from different companies, were promptly rounded up in the middle of the night by Chinese authorities and deported out of the country immediately after this happened. Does that sound sus to you or what? And then just all of a sudden after that, Chinese guidance systems just got tenfold better? And then the Chinese said, no, we don't want to work with you. Never mind. There's a reason why NASA is barred from working with China because of Intelsat 708. Oh boy, 7 a.m. Yeah, also, yeah, there's also this.
You went straight down, man.
Yeah, and can we inspect the wreckage? No, leave. Can we see where the rocket landed? No, leave. That's a little sus, don't you think? Just keep watching. I don't know if they did it on purpose, Tomast.
Look at the satellite dish. You got half of it. Looks like the next center.
Is it dumb to say that I could see another race to the moon between the U.S., China, and maybe Russia? I don't know, Hive Eyes. Maybe. History doesn't repeat, it rhymes. I don't know. The stakes are different. It is not... yeah, see. Look, rocket crashed right into a village, dudes. I'm guessing they ran out of time to reverse engineer it and put it back. No, God, they... Well, yeah. They probably made a copy of it. They probably put the copy on the rocket, and when they realized that guidance systems are a little more than just copying something, the rocket failed, and then they probably still have 708 guidance system. They probably just some water inside of that satellite or whatever. They wouldn't let anybody inspect the wreckage because it's China. See what I'm saying? That's why we don't work with them. Because in the 90s, this went belly up, man. Yeah, only 7 people. Oh, only 7 people died. Yeah, okay. Yeah, because there was only 7 people in this village in the middle of the night, right? So, before you sit there and you say, why don't we work with China? That's so stupid. We should go into space mutual. There's a reason why we don't do that. There's a very good reason. There's a reason why we don't work with them, fellas. Like, that's the reason. Yeah, see what I mean? I don't know. Dude, I still can't figure out for the life of me who thought that would be a good idea, but yeah. Nobody, we still don't know to this day what happened to that damn thing. But like, look, there's more footage of here of people going back to their hotel. Look. Dude, the rocket didn't land like near it and the shockwave blew out some glass. This rocket landed in the middle of the village. So, do you like the point that I'm trying to get by showing you guys this is that China will grind Russia's space program into the dust if they decide to work mutually together. And you could say like, "Oh no, they're bros." No, they're not. They aren't. They're mutual partners. They're not. Enemy of my enemy, dudes. You can say it, and you can say whatever you want. All right, that's fine. Like, I think that Russia wanting to stop working with the U.S. and start working with, you know, like and keep in mind they only have an MOU, which basically says that we plan to work with each other in the future, maybe, right? If they try to go by themselves, it's just going to be an in-house domestic program, and you're not going to get very far because nobody in Russia wants to put any money towards the space program because it doesn't make you money as much as like oil or something else, right? Which is fair. I get that. I understand that. You know, if people want to make more money, I get it. That's fine. Like, whatever. And I think that working with the Chinese would be extraordinarily bad for them. I think the Chinese will do the same thing. They'll grind their program right into the dust, just like they and steal whatever, and then be like, nope, we're good. Like, I'm not trying to be a jerk here, guys. I don't really see the space program. Like, what are they going to do? Like, I don't know what they're going to do. Yeah, Tessa, like, I don't know what the Russian program is going to do unless they can somehow domestically prop up their own program similar to how NASA does. But how are they going to do that if Roscosmos is a state-owned corporation? That's what I mean. I don't really see any, like, and I don't want to talk bad about the Russian space program, and I really don't want to talk bad about the Chinese space program either. It's just, but history is history. You got to learn this stuff. You know, like, I didn't intend for this space news to be a freaking disaster, train wreck of, like, trying to make people feel bad and stuff, right? Yeah, perhaps that's what I mean. Everybody's in it for themselves, which I understand that. That's fine. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. Because, I mean, High Vibes, you asked if we could get into a space program. I think Russia will get left in the dust by China and us, to be honest with you. If anything, it's going to be between us and China, but and that's what I mean, High Vibes, when I was saying history doesn't repeat, it rhymes. You know what I mean? I don't think if there is going to be a space race between China and the United States, I just don't. I don't see it playing out like the geophysical year and the space race that we had with the Soviet Union. How is it that China's space capsule is so closely designed after an upgraded Soyuz? They licensed Soyuz production and also the Salyut module. In the aftermath of the Soviet Union, those designs got licensed to China in the mid-90s. Most likely somebody pawned off government property. Yeah, to try and make some cash because the paychecks stopped coming because the Soviet Union collapsed. Yeah, that's a lot of freaking guys did that. I mean, these guys basically had a platoon of freaking soldiers, like platoons of soldiers or engineers or scientists, and all the money was coming from the state, and then the money stopped coming. So what they did was they sold off all the state property so they could put food on the table for, like, you're a general, you put food on the table for your platoon, right? And all those guys that sold off all that property, right, or, you know, basically laid claim because they were the foreman of a facility in Soviet times, basically took control of the facility, and that's how Russian oligarchs became a thing, fellas. They're the guys that pawned off all of Soviet state property in the 90s. Tanks, guns, rockets, fighter planes, sold all that crap. Lord of War, basically. Lord of War teaches that pretty dang well. That's what happened. But they didn't do it for just straight profit. Some of the guys sold off guns so they could put food on the table because, yeah, all of a sudden your paychecks stopped coming. Like, you know, it's easy to say in the West that, oh, they just did it for money. That's something that we understand very well over here, right? Like, but it wasn't just for that. It was, you know, it's trying to make sure that, you know, if you're a general and you command soldiers, you want to make sure you guys have something to eat. At least in the interim time, right? Done with KSP. No, we'll go back to KSP in a little bit. And that's why we used the RD-180, so we prevented that from getting into bad actors' hands. Bingo. How I see it is China and Russia are looking for land to have that upper hand. I believe they can put up a smokescreen and get a base or something on the moon. High-Vis, okay, that's fine. With what rocket? With what rocket? What rocket are you going to use to get to the moon? Angara? Not powerful enough. Long March 5? Not powerful enough, unless you wanted to do Earth Orbit Rendezvous. You could launch like 3 or 4 Long March 5s in a row, because Long March 5 is somewhere synonymous in function with Saturn 1B or Ares 1. You don't have a super heavy lifter to get anything useful out to the moon. That's not a lander, that's for sure. The Amur rocket? Yeah, Amur was never supposed to be a heavy launcher. Trampoline heavy. I mean, they're not dumb, trust me, it's hard, but it's not impossible. High-Vis, that's not what I'm saying. When I say with what rocket, I don't mean to imply that they couldn't engineer a rocket. So, let's take a look. The U.S. has SLS. We have SLS and we have Starship. Those are 2 rockets. SLS will get to the moon one way or another in a month. And then with people in 2 years. Okay. China is looking to work on Long March 5. Long March 9. Long March 9 is a paper rocket. It doesn't exist. And if it does, they ain't going to tell us about it. But we would know. Like, we would be able to figure that out. It's not like you miss somebody making a super heavy launch vehicle complex. Like, you know, China's going to go build a site as big as 39A. Everyone would see it, right? So Long March 9, which is their super heavy launch vehicle proposal, is still a paper rocket. So, you know, I think that China can do it. Absolutely. They could absolutely build a super heavy launch vehicle, High-Vis. What I kind of implied by with what rocket means that they have to design the rocket and build it first and then test it. Now, you can say whatever you want about China, blah, 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 but their space program is pretty damn good. It's pretty damn safe. At least the human spaceflight capacity. Like, I mean, that's because it's based off of Russian stuff and some of our stuff, too. Like, but stage falling on people. It's safe for the people on board. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, it ain't safe for the where the damn rocket stages come down, that's for sure. And they seem to have no problem with rockets landing on villages and whatnot. But once again, that's the reason why I don't touch anything that has to do with that, man. Rockets that come back down and hurt people aren't rockets, they're missiles. I don't care if it's a spent stage from a vehicle, you know? So I think the Chinese can do it. What I mean is that it's going to take time. I think they're more than capable of building something as big as Saturn V, Starship, SLS. Absolutely. It's going to take time. It takes about 10 years to engineer a super heavy launch vehicle like that. Seriously, it takes about a decade. And my rule of thumb there, Saturn V, N1, Space Shuttle, Buran, SLS, Starship, even with SpaceX's high production rate, it probably won't fly people for about a decade. Maybe a little bit less because SpaceX does go pretty damn fast, right? But, so, say that takes a decade. That would put China with orbital capability to get to the moon, right? With a presumed Long March 9 rocket. That would give them that capability sometime in the early 2030s, where we already have Gateway and people landed on the moon and hopefully a Starship base down on the surface of the moon. See what I mean? I don't think the space race is going to play out the same way. And I don't think it is beyond China to build a super heavy launch vehicle. They absolutely can. Oh yeah. It's just going to take some time. That's all. So, they want to go together to the moon with what rocket? That's going to take a decade to make any rocket that even has a close capability at Delta V to move anything out there. It's one thing to move a little U-2 rover out there, which is cool. Don't get me wrong. The Chinese missions to the far side of the moon with the Chang'e 3, 4, and 5 are really cool. They're really great missions. But there's moving a rover this big and then moving 2 people in a lander. That's 2 different things. If Long March 5 can put 9 tons into TLI, what's stopping them sending one-way trips? National pride, Tessa. Think about it. When you're competing on the world stage, you bring your A game because you want people to see your country as a good country, right? That's what the whole space race was about. Would the space race have been better if Neil and Buzz died on impact when they went to land on the moon? No way. No, it wouldn't have had the same effect. Absolutely not. Like, once again, guys, every once in a while I have to get real with this kind of stuff, but I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news. I know what I try to do is, be cool. Space is awesome, but it's not all awesome. You can't be happy all the time. People that are happy all the time, that are insensitive to bad news, are called sociopaths. Yeah, no. What I'm saying is the U.S. likes to procrastinate things, and I think the space program is the first thing that they will procrastinate on until it's too late, and China is near finishing that rocket to get to the moon. That's all it takes. Maybe High Vice. I'm not going to say that couldn't happen. It's possible. But I don't see that happening, especially since SLS is starting to get so concrete. You know what I mean? But who knows? Orbital rendezvous sounds viable. Yeah, maybe they could do that, but that mission gets way more complicated than launching one big rocket. EOR is way more complicated to do. Earth orbit rendezvous, so build a transfer vehicle, a lander, command module, and a transfer stage, and then butt them together up in space and then send them out to the moon. That is 1,000 times more complicated than just sending it in one shot. It takes way longer, it's way more complicated, and your odds of success are less likely. They weighed this during the Apollo program. There's a reason why the Apollo had Saturn 1B as a backup, so they could do Earth orbit rendezvous if the Saturn V didn't work. But that means they probably wouldn't have made the 1970 goal. Could build it at their station. It's possible. What I enjoy about you is you don't sugarcoat and you always play devil's advocate even on your own points. I love the way you break down arguments and look at both pros and cons, even with tricky political backgrounds. Alleviate, I'm not trying to piss anybody off. I'm not trying to piss in the Russian or the Chinese cornflakes. I'm just calling it like it is. You know what I mean? Like, why would I do that any other way, right? Like, that's stupid. But yeah, no, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I think with things like Webb, it showed me that NASA can still do crazy stuff. I have hope for Artemis. I mean, like, Artemis is there right now. Like, guys, SLS is good to go. Our Apollo 4 moment is happening next month. You know, and we're getting ready to launch a super heavy lift vehicle, and it's still on paper in every other part of the world. Yeah, well, alleviate. I don't like talking to you guys about bad news, but you have to learn this to understand the political climate. Like, you know, not the political climate, just how space works. Like, Intel's, like, everybody, I see this a lot, and I see people making this mistake. I see people saying, why don't we just work with China to go to the moon? Wouldn't that be great instead of racing each other? I see people say that, and that is like peak Dunning-Kruger. That tells me that they don't know anything about Intelsat 708 and why we don't work with them. They just looked at something and said, oh, that's dumb, and automatically wrote off, you know, why that is the way that it is. I don't like talking about Intelsat 708, dude. I don't like showing death on stream. I really have a big rule against doing that. You know? But this is important to understand context of why we don't do that. I think it's the Hatch Act, why that exists. Yeah, High Vise, I mean, in NASA press conferences, they have said it's a matter of national security to get back to the moon. So, I don't know. Maybe it'll work. I don't want to, like, I'm not, I don't want to come in here on my news segment claiming to be impartial and then just dunk on the Chinese space program the entire time. Like, I don't think that's right either, you know? The other side of that is it actually being a race per se that causes people to innovate. I don't have any problem between friendly competition as long as people don't get hurt, you know, between countries. Like, I have no problem with the space race. The space race was a great way to kind of fight each other without fighting each other. Basically an Olympics for technology. That was a great way to do that. It's instead of blowing each other up, right? Like, I'd rather do that. Thank you. Got us some of the craziest technology humanity has ever devised. Digital computing. Like, I wouldn't mind doing that again. You know? Isn't it fear that China will reach the moon, build a base, and say ours now go away? Pretty much zero. I mean, it very much seems like China doesn't really give a frick about international patent law or just international laws in general. Like, you know, they definitely don't care about patent law. I'll say that. You know, so if they go to the moon believing that it's their divine right to be in charge of the moon, it's ours, so we're just going there to claim what's already ours, then yeah, we're gonna have problems. I don't think that's what they're doing. I'm pretty sure that's not. They want to show the world that, you know, look at what we're doing, where this is the right way to do things. You know, it is very much a ideological thing, I think. But I mean, no one can doubt what their space program's doing. They're doing some pretty good stuff. They launched another space station module the other day, the Wenchen module. Yeah, and it's up there. They're building a pretty damn big space station up there. It's not as big as the ISS, but it's almost as big, and they're doing it by themselves. Yeah, Pirate, a lot of people want to do that. I know, history repeats itself. You want history repeating itself? There's history repeating itself, dudes. But we've done enough bad news for the day. I honestly think that Russia's space program doesn't really have anywhere to go. Like, that's what spurred this whole conversation. I don't think they have anywhere to go. Like, if they pull out of the ISS in 2024, their space program's screwed. They're done. And once again, Roscosmos or RSC Energia's chief engineer seems to agree with me on that one. They could always follow the British space program. Anyway, and once again, I'm not trying to speak bad about China and Russian space programs. Space programs take a lot of effort, and at the end of the day, I'm sure there's a massive amount of people in the CNSA that don't really care about ideology, that care about science. I know that because they're humans. And I know there's a lot of Russian people that care as well, that work for Roscosmos. They don't give a frick about what's going on down here. They care about up there, just like there's a lot of people here that do the same thing. That's what I mean. I feel bad dunking on their programs all the time, but truth is, I'm just calling it like I see it, and I don't like doing that either too much. You know, I like being impartial, but also at the same time, I don't think anything good is going to happen for international cooperation in space from Russia pulling out in 2024 of the ISS, but I don't think they're going to do that. So who knows? Once again, sorry if this is getting annoying. Sorry if I'm being incessant about it. Let's get to the next space news. I do have some good news, if you want. Got some good news. NASA had a press conference today about a more fleshed out kind of design for Mars sample returns in 2033. Check this out. Let's look at the picture first, because I always like looking at the picture first. Also, they did helicopter on Mars. Good news, you reserved a U-Haul? We already have a U-Haul reserved, God. And yeah, if I can't get the towing stuff figured out, dude, my dad said he'll help us. His truck will tow, which is pretty cool. Yeah, Alleviate. Do you not know about, before we get into the Mars sample return stuff, Alleviate, you don't know about the Black Arrow rocket? Yeah, England is the only country ever to surrender orbital launch capability. Yeah. Yeah, that is the most British thing I've ever heard, to be honest. Like, and you know what? I don't mean that in a antagonizing way. I'm not your dad. I don't mean that in an antagonist. That's literally the most British thing I've ever heard. It's such a British thing to do. Yeah, I mean, Alleviate, we do the same thing too. There's a reason why I want to tell more people about this. This project in itself was probably worth more than the Black Arrow, even adjusted for inflation. And that's just one of like 1,000 different projects that we could have done that would have made us go further in space, but we didn't do because Alleviate, they do like wasting money, don't they? Too real? Too real? Let's get to Mars sample return. So, check this out. NASA has finished the systems requirements review for the Mars sample return program, which is nearing completion of the conceptual design phase. During this phase, the program team evaluated and refined the architecture to return the scientifically selected samples, which are currently in the collection process by NASA's Perseverance rover in the red planet's Jezero crater. I'm not saying Jezero, that's not how you say that word. The architecture for the campaign includes contributions from the European Space Agency, which includes contributions from the ESA, is expected to reduce the complexity of future missions and increase probability of success. The conceptual design phase is when every facet of a mission plan gets under a microscope. Oh, excuse me, Dr. Z said that. The conceptual design phase is when every facet of a mission plan goes under the microscope. There are some significant and advantageous changes to the plan, which can be directly attributed to Perseverance's recent success at the Jezero crater and the amazing performance of our Mars helicopter. What? He talks like that. It's cool. Sounds like Gunther Steiner. It's cool. Any interest in seeing the eclipse from San Antonio? I'd love to see a picture, Celtic, for sure. That's not Russian pirate. It's Swiss German. That's where Dr. Z is from. That's where Thomas Zurbuchen is. He's the guy that runs NASA's Science Mission Directorate. Guy's cool. The guy's really, he's really cool. The guy's really smart. Like, like, everybody calls him Dr. Z, right? You know when, you're in the presence of somebody that uses a lot of big words and you're like, they're just using big words to sound smart. And then you're, in a different scenario, you're in the presence of a person that is actually really freaking smart and you're just like, yep. Nope. I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but it sounds cool. That's Dr. Z. Guy's a class A nerd, man. Everyone is I miss driving fast car around. Got to drive out the fast car somewhere. Anyway. The Advanced Mission Architecture takes into consideration a recently updated analysis of Perseverance's expected longevity. Perseverance will be the primary means of transporting samples to NASA's Sample Retrieval Lander carrying the Mars Ascent Vehicle and the ESA's Sample Transfer Arm. As such, the Mars Sample Return campaign will no longer include the Sample Fetch rover or its associated second lander. Oh. Interesting. The Sample Retrieval Lander will include 2 sample recovery helicopters. Ooh! I told you I had good news for you. The Sample Retriever Lander will include 2 sample recovery helicopters based on the design of Ingenuity, which has performed 29 flights at Mars and survived over a year beyond its original planned lifetime. Hell yeah! Hell yeah! That's awesome! The helicopters will provide a secondary capability to retrieve samples cached on the surface of Mars. Oh, that's cool. They're going to do 3 helicopters on Mars. More from Dr. C on those helicopters. All right. We'll check it in a second. The ESA Earth Return Orbiter. Nice. The ESA Earth Return Orbiter and its NASA-provided capture, containment, and return system remain vital elements in the program architecture. With the planned launch dates for Earth Return Orbiter and Sample Retrieval Lander in the fall of 2027 and summer of 2028, respectively, the samples are expected to arrive on Earth in 2033. With its architecture solidified during this conceptual design phase, the program is expected to move into a preliminary design phase this October. In this phase, it is expected to last 12 months. The program will complete technology development and create engineering prototypes of major mission components. This is a refined concept for the Mars Sample This refined concept for the Mars Sample Return campaign was presented to the delegates from 22 participating states of European's space exploration program, Terra Nove. Nice. In May. At their next meeting in September, the states will consider the discontinuation of the development of the Sample Fetch rover. The ESA is continuing at full speed the development of both the Earth Return Orbiter that will make the historic round trip from the Earth to Mars and back again, and the Sample Transfer Arm that will robotically place sample tubes aboard the orbiting sample container before its launch and the surface launch to the surface of the red planet, said David Parker, ESA Director of Human and Robotic Exploration. The respective contributions to the campaign are contingent upon available funding from the U.S. and ESA participating staff. Frick. Damn it. Hopefully this gets funding. More formalized agreements between the two agencies will be established in the next year. Working together on historic endeavors like Mars Sample Return not only provides invaluable data about our place in the universe, but brings us closer together right here on Earth. Oh, wait, Thomas said that. Working together on historic endeavors like Mars Sample Return not only provides invaluable data and our place in the universe, but brings us closer together right here on Earth. They will do 2 helicopters on Mars, man. Yes! More helicopters. And dude, those helicopters will go and pick up the sample cores and bring them back. Oh, that's really cool. Did you already cover the SLS transfer production to deep space? Fozzie, we did talk about that yesterday. Is there anything in particular you want to know? The first step in the Mars Sample Return campaign is already in progress. Since it landed at Jezero Crater in February 18, 2021, Perseverance rover has collected 11 scientifically compelling rock core samples and 1 atmospheric sample. You gotta get that sweet science, man. Night Sun Temple. How much less lift do you get on Mars? Less than 1% of the lift you'd get here on Earth at kind of mean sea level. Mars doesn't have an ocean, so low points of Mars terrain, so like the Mariner Valley, 1% of the lift that you'd get at sea level on Earth. Yeah, like less than 1%, maybe like 0.05% of lift. Yeah. Yeah. It's less than 1% of our atmosphere. Now, keep in mind, Mars does have an atmosphere, but the atmosphere mostly consists of gases that you don't breathe very well. It's just the leftover gases from an atmosphere. So there's CO2. It's mostly CO2, actually. And it's only really in the lower areas of Mars, right? It's in the low points, like basically. So the Mariner Valley on Mars is, now don't get me wrong, it's way bigger than what I'm about to compare it to. You can literally see it from space. Like it takes up like half of the planet, like almost an entire hemisphere. But it's like Death Valley, in that it's one of the low points in the world, right? Death Valley in California is way below sea level. Mariner Valley is like that, and in those low points, now don't get me wrong, once again, no sea level on Mars, but in the lowest of the low points, so the point where you're like physically closest to the core of Mars, there is air. There's not a lot, but it's there. And it's not breathable. It's CO2, and like, yeah, there's a couple of other things, like there's some methane in there if I'm remembering right. Could be wrong. There might be a little bit of oxygen by itself, and maybe a tiny, teeny weeny bit of nitrogen. I forget what its exact atmospheric composition is. I know it's mostly CO2. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The Mariner Valley would be like if there was no Pacific Ocean and you could see the Marianas Trench from space. Yeah, it's like that. Yeah, there's air down there, but it's not really breathable. It's so cool that they're using helicopters for a practical purpose instead of just being a science experiment. Well, Reagan, yeah, it's funny because, you know who's responsible for the helicopter on there? The helicopter thing was on the fence when they were putting Perseverance together. Jim is the one that wanted them to do it. Jim talked with Dr. Z back in 2018, 2019. He said we should put a helicopter on this because it's freaking cool. Why aren't we doing this helicopter experiment? We should do that. Do we have extra payload? Do we have extra Delta V? And everyone's like, yeah. And he's like, all right, fine. Put it on let's do that. Let's do that project. Jim wanted to do it because helicopters on Mars is really freaking cool. Yeah. And he's not wrong. And him wanting to do that cool thing, like you said, Reagan, wanted to do a cool thing like that is going to lead us to have an innovation where we don't need to land 2 landers. Because how this was supposed to work originally is that they were going to land 2 of these. One of them will have the return rocket on it, and the other one would have a rover that drives around and retrieves the core samples from Perseverance. And then the rover would drive back, and they would park the rover right here. The crane would grab the sample and put it up here so they could launch it back up into space. Right? Now they don't need that. Now they could just do that with a helicopter, which is way freaking cooler. Wait a minute, why is the Earth so close? Because it's just a render. I don't know, Pigzik, but all I know is that they did helicopter on Mars. Yeah, it's a PR stunt with spare Delta V, and it, yeah, freaking, yeah, came out huge. Yeah, exactly. You guys want to see how big the Mariner Valley is on Mars? Take a look. Whoop. It's only a model. Shh, 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 shh. Yep. Valles Marineris. Yeah, if we're going to live on Mars, it's probably going to be in the Mariner Valley, just because there's air there, and yeah, you can use that. You could use that air to make. You could suck up the CO2 and make oxygen. You know what I mean? Yeah. In the Expanse, the MCRN is in the Mariner Valley, if I'm remembering correctly. Why does the heli have a wheel-looking things on its legs so it can roll around and grab the samples on the ground, Reagan? It is warmer too, there, Waza, because of the air. Yeah. Oh, just a little valley. Yeah, no, Mariner Valley is pretty freaking big. It makes it so much sweeter knowing that Ingenuity was a backdrop for Mars 2020. Yeah, Ingenuity's cool, man. That was such a good idea. And you know, like, the funny thing is, dudes, is that feeds into something that, you know, it feeds into something that I think is an important thing for NASA to do. NASA's all about inspiring, right? Now, it's about inspiring. It's about inspiring people. And the rover is all fine and dandy. And don't get me wrong, that's inspiring enough. But the helicopter is like, it's like people are saying in chat. It's one of those novelty things that's just really cool to see. It's really, that right there is like on another level. That's something that people can see. Like, okay, they see the rover, you see the rover moving around on Mars. I get it. It lands and then it rolls around, etc., etc. That's really freaking cool, right? But seeing the rover from drone shot, from POV shot, from Ingenuity flying around, that's a little bit different, That's a little bit different. People understand what a drone shot is nowadays. That's something that people could look at and be like, oh my gosh, we're doing that on Mars. That's really freaking cool. That's why I always say it. It's kind of as a joke, but I say, oh, they did helicopter on Mars. Like, there is a helicopter, there's a drone flying around on Mars. Flying around. Like, that. What's the point? Like, what's the point of doing that, right? Like, the point is it's freaking cool, and it gives us new perspective. They're not, like, don't get me wrong, now there's a scientific reason for it, but there really wasn't too much of a scientific reason before, but, I mean, look at that! Thank you for linking this, Fuzz. I want us to do boat on Titan, not gonna lie. Yeah, Blue, I don't know if we're gonna do boat there, but would you be cool if we took Ingenuity and Perseverance and combined them? Made a Perseverance-sized drone that flies around? Like, would we be cool with that? Because that's on the books, by the way. There's people that watch the stream that work on this, by the way. Yeah, you're good with that? Yeah, me too, man. Yeah, it's a Perseverance rover with helicopter blades on it. Dragonfly is not happening for a little while. That's probably not going to launch until the end of this decade, fellas. Yeah. But it's a Perseverance rover with helicopter blades on it. Yeah, no joke. That's the plan. Perseverance rover chassis. And it's just that, why have Perseverance roll around, with wheels and then have Ingenuity flying around it when you could just fly the entire stupid thing around? That's what I mean about Ingenuity, dude. Ingenuity is changing our ideas about how we're going to move stuff around on Mars and on other planets in the future. That one stupid little publicity stunt is changing our entire mission architecture. And it's something that we wouldn't have done unless, and that's something we wouldn't have figured out unless we wanted to do it because it was freaking cool. Sometimes with spaceflight, doing it because it's really freaking cool is a good way to think about engineering things in ways you wouldn't have previously thought of. I'll give you an example. Landing a rocket. Landing an orbital class first stage. Or landing a suborbital tourism rocket. Falcon 9 has directly led to this. Led to Starship. No one thought that was a good idea. They thought it was, it's just a publicity stunt. That's what people called it 5-10 years ago. Oh, you're never going to land a stage. If you do, you're going to have to take the whole thing apart like the shuttle. It's not going to be profitable, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, where are all those people now? Actually, some of those people, some skeptics refuse to admit that they're wrong. They're like, until SpaceX gives me their entire account and until they give them the books, it'll never be profitable. Until they give me all their books, it'll never be profitable. Until they give me complete access to their financials over the last 15 years, I'll never believe it. It's like, okay. Let's skip the middleman and build a drone factory on Mars. All right. Ask Tori Bruno whether reusability matters now. If the market is there, Bouncy, and spoiler alert, the market is there, right? Sometimes you just gotta do something really freaking cool in space. Done. That's a great way to think about new engineering ideas, to discuss new engineering pathways. It's a great idea, and you just do it because it's freaking cool. That's literally why Ingenuity exists, and now we're rethinking our entire Mars architecture for uncrewed exploration. Oh, by the way, this thing is a mobile launch pad that lands on Mars, just so you know. It's a mobile launch pad and payload integration device. That's what this thing does. It picks up the sample and it puts it in the rocket. Fairing closes and then launch it into space. How does it launch? Well, it's a couple of solid rocket motors. Like a high-powered rocket or a sounding rocket. Yeah, basically. You know, a mobile, not a mobile launcher, it's a mobile lander. I have to say, solar panel spam, yeah, right? Rethinking because Ingenuity has flown 29 times. Talon, sometimes, you know, sometimes it's just cool to do things. Like, look at landing on the moon. Did that help us? Did that help us with our scientific endeavors? Yeah, a little bit. But we did it because we could. Because it's a ridiculous idea to show that we can do it. Sometimes, perseverance, ridiculous idea to show that we can do it. That's classic NASA. And that's why I like Jim so much, because he understood that. It's not just, sometimes it's not just about, you know, total 100% scientific benefit. You know what I mean? Sometimes you gotta show that you have the chops to do something ridiculous. You know, and don't get me wrong, Perseverance is pretty insane. It's pretty insane how they landed that rover, and we got footage of it too. But the helicopter is just that icing on the cake, you know what I'm saying? And now we're rethinking Mars sample return architecture, which is amazing. That's so freaking cool. This could revolutionize transportation on Mars. Nobody thought building a helicopter was possible. Nobody thought that thing would work. Let alone 29 freaking times. Where's the drone shot of this thing? Yeah, look at this video. Ingenuity found the parachute shell that it came down on with the rover. Look at this! Yeah, oh, Mars guy. Yeah, okay. Unfreaking real. Also, this there's just this footage. One submarine's on other planets. We could do a submarine on Titan if we wanted to, Tomast. UFO on Mars? Tango Delta. Touchdown confirmed. We're safe on Mars. I remember this. You remember watching this thing? It was a good time.
This allows both the
Serious, I still can't believe it, man. It's just... Here, let's get down to the good
about
stuff.
300 meters off the surface of Mars. We have started our constant velocity accordion, which means we are conducting the sky crane, about to conduct the sky crane maneuver.
What in the absolute crap?
About 20 meters off the surface.
We're getting signals from MRO. Tango Delta.
Touchdown confirmed. Perseverance safely on the surface of Mars, ready to...
How does that even happen? How does that happen? It's just... What the frick?
We're getting signals from MRO. Tango Delta.
Touchdown confirmed. Perseverance safely on the...
Why is there no exhaust plume from the sky crane? Hypergulls usually burn clear, T-Man. Think about it. Hypergulls usually burn clear, and there's no atmosphere on Mars. So those gases that are coming out of those things are spreading out way more than the camera field of view can see. Think about the jellyfish that you get sometimes when Falcon 9 launches. Does that look like the upper stage is working correctly? No. Is there any plume from that? No. Nobody questions that when a Falcon 9's going up into space in the vacuum. You gotta understand, Mars is pretty damn close to the vacuum. So the hypergullic, so they're using hydrazine and NTO, right? The hypergalls burn pretty damn clear to begin with, and the fact that they're firing pretty much in near vacuum, yeah, there's no plume. You don't see any plume. This literally happens every time we have an upper stage camera on a SpaceX rocket. It's the same phenomenon. And it's funny because I know there were skeptics that were like, whoa, but NASA's so stupid. They forgot the rocket engine exhaust. It kind of hurts a little bit to me that somebody looked at this and that's the conclusion that they came to. That kind of hurts. Like, not in like, oh, that hurts because it's such a good achievement. It hurts in the everyone is now dumber in this room for having listened to you kind of way. You know what I'm saying? NASA's, yeah, exactly, Pirate. NASA's department, they ran out of dude, like, use 2 seconds of critical thinking. If they were trying to fool you, if they were trying to fool people about landing on Mars, why would they look at this and say, oh yeah, that's fine? You think they just would have forgot that? Are you freaking thick? Like, oh my God. Like, God, it freaking makes my head hurt. Oh, yep, you're the keen-eyed one, the keen-eyed skeptic, and there's no plumes coming from this. I'm the only one that caught this. Where's the plume? Wake up, everybody. Dude, how stupid can you be? Like, it's like, and don't get me wrong, you guys are fine. There's not anybody in here. I've read stuff like that. I'm like, that's the conclusion that you came to. You looked at this, you comprehended what you saw, and the conclusion that you came to is, oh, there's no plume, so it must be fake. Oh, God. Oh, my freaking face hurts. Oh, Jesus. Like that, dude. Ugh. Stay in school, kids. Stay in school. Stay in school. That's all I'm saying. Stay in school. Like, the critical thinking is there. The critical thinking is there. You're like, wow, that's landing. And wanting to capture, wanting to, like, be observative. Looking for, like, little clues and details is what I do. That's what I do when we launch rockets. That's how I knew Astra's rocket was going to break when LV-6 went sideways off the pad. I knew it was going to happen before it even happened because I was watching for things, right? It's like, you're almost there. You're almost there. Like, there is critical thinking there because they're looking around for things that don't make sense, right? Which is being scientific. That's what you're supposed to do. But to come to the freaking conclusion that, oh, I'm the only one that caught that there's no plumes there. There's no plumes there. NASA forgot to put the plumes in. A bunch of idiots. It's like, that's the conclusion that you came to from this? The conclusion that you came to is that there's some grand conspiracy to fool everybody here. And because there's no plumes, this is not on Mars, right? Because the rockets would have plumes. That's the conclusion that you came to. That's the conclusion that people come to. Like that. Like, if that was the case, if NASA was trying to fool you, don't you think they would put plumes in there? You think that somebody at NASA was just like, oh yeah, there's no plumes on it. Whatever. Push it to post. Let's publish this. It'll be fine. No one will notice. Like. That's what I mean about that Dunning-Kruger, dudes. Peak amount stupid, man. The implication with saying, oh, there's no plumes, it's fake, is that you know more than NASA. No, you don't. And guess what? Even if NASA was faking stuff, you still don't know more than them. See what I mean? That's why it's dude, it's the dumbest thing. It's gotta be trolls, man. But you know some of them aren't either. It's just like, okay. Okay. Maybe NASA's audio team handled the CGI. Poison, don't give them any ideas, man. Jesus. Nah, people have said when Perseverance landed, Dukas, that there's no flames on those rockets, so there's no flames, so it's got to be fake. It's like, okay. No, once again, the reason why there's no flames coming out is because Mars is in a near vacuum. The plume is expanding right out of the nozzle. Second part is that hypergalls burn clear. They burn clear all the time. The only time they don't burn clear is when like a hypergolic thing blows up and then it leaves a nice big orange cloud of fun. But hypergols generally burn clear, and they burn clear. The flame is spreading out like crazy because of the vacuum. And you could literally see the flame spread out from the plumes on the dirt. If this was on Earth and this wasn't in a vacuum, the rocket flames would be coming out in a nice column, and you wouldn't see the dirt being dispersed the way that it is. Like, that's what I mean. It's ridiculous. No, like, you're using critical thinking, but you're believing what you want to believe, which is not scientific at all. Like, okay. But see, here's the thing, fellas. Like, people came to that conclusion, and it is what it is, man. It is what it is. People clearly don't want to change their mind, so if they're not going to be scientific about it and they don't want to change your mind, don't give them your breath. Don't give them attention. The way I deal with, you know, like flat earthers or moon landing deniers or perseverance landing deniers, I let them think whatever they want. I don't care. You can think what you want. I really don't give a frick. You're never going to be in charge of NASA, so it's really not a problem. You know, like, yeah, these people ain't ever gonna run NASA. They ain't getting anywhere near NASA. Not with the way they think about things. So you don't need to worry about it. Yeah, exactly, Sarah. I know. It's really funny, right? Like, I let them talk, dude. I don't care. You can think whatever you want. I'm not trying to change your mind. Those people go to Rule 8 en masse. I mean, Ando, there's a reason why I say don't go on Twitter and don't watch the frigging news. But yeah, I mean, they like to do that, you know. Politics is becoming people's entertainment, which is gross. First of all, this is like trying to make entertainment out of watching paint dry. Like, is that really the best thing we can do with our time, watching paint? I mean, some people like watching paint dry. That's fine. I hate on those people. But damn, man. And for the people that want to know, like, if you are a skeptic out there that's watching the stream, well, first of all, like, dude, if you want to think that the Earth's flat or whatever, I don't care. I really don't give a frick. You know, you can watch the stream and think that's fine. As long as you're entertained, I really don't give a crap. The second part of that is, you know, and I actually talked to a skeptic about this one time. That wasn't actually a troll for a change. They were actually like, dude, I get it, but I'm on the fence about it. I'm like, all right, talk to me. And they're like, space is too perfect. It's too perfect to be occurring in nature, right? And I'm like, no, it's very imperfect. Space is a dirty, dirty place. There's asteroids, ice, all kinds of crap floating around up there. It's not empty, that's for sure. The fact that it's so ridiculously imperfect, it tells me that it has to be natural. That has to be naturally occurring. Because why would humans come up with some kind of social construct about space and have it not be perfect? Don't you think if humans are going to come up with a nice made-up place, it would be utopia? Think about it. Just putting it out there. Right? Think about that for a second. Every construct that we've made up about a place that we're not, it always ends up being utopia. Every time. Every ideology across multiple cultures and civilizations across the globe. Every one of them has utopia as the end game, right? Space is a very dangerous place. It is not perfect. That's how I know humans didn't come up with it. Humans didn't come up with it. Humans ain't gonna come up with something like that. See what I'm saying? Interesting, huh? That's how I know. That's how I know it's not crap. Because if it was crap, space would be this nice magical utopian place where everybody lives in peace and heart. That's not it. You know how I know that that's not a thing? The ISS has problems all the time. The ISS spun over when Nauka docked to it. It almost flipped over and crashed. It was really, I'm not going to say it was close, but it wasn't ideal behavior, that's for sure. Yeah, Pasquale, right? See what I mean? Dude, that's my honest to God selling point. Space is a very chaotic and dangerous place to be. That's how I know we didn't come up with it. Webb got hit by space dust. Perfect recent example. Yeah, Ando. If it was bullcrap, why would they say, oh, Webb got hit with a micrometeorite, but it's fine. It's not going to do anything. Why would you even tell that story? That doesn't make any sense. You know, oh, Webb was built to withstand micrometeorites. It's the best thing ever made. Like, you see what I mean? The fact that space is so ridiculously imperfect. And once again, we're seeing these pictures from Webb too. You know, now that we're bringing it up, you see these pictures from Webb. You see the stars. You see the universe. It is a chaotic, fiery freaking place. And we definitely don't. I wouldn't say we would belong there naturally. That's for sure. But that's what spaceflight is all about, isn't it? Venturing into the unknown, venturing into places where we don't belong, like climbing the highest mountain, or flying the Atlantic. We choose to go to the moon. Yeah, that's a good speech, right? If anything, Tomas, if anything, this is what we have here is utopia, and up there, nope, that ain't that. You know what I'm saying? That's right, Ando. At every waking moment, space is trying to kill you. It does not recede. It does not relent. It does not feel empathy. It is always trying to kill you. Does that sound ideal? Does that sound like a place that humans made up? No. To boldly go where no one has gone before. I don't know why this is Peter Griffin's voice. Seriously though, who else gets fired up in the opening of TNG where the ship goes to warp 9? Who else gets fired up with just like that? I get a little fired up from it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm like, yeah, all right. yeah, all right, cool, good to know. Never skip that part. Yeah, dude, when it powers up the warp course, like I'm like, yes, I want this. Yeah, Punch and Chewie. Also, when they jump to hyperspace in Star Wars, yeah. I'm not gonna sit there and pretend I don't get a little. Yeah, let's go. Like, I'm a nerd, man. What do you want from me? I'm a nerd, man. What do you want? It happens. It's true. Thing, go fast. Go faster. Yeah, seriously, of course it's that. It's so stupid. Sorry. Spaceballs. We passed them. Stop this thing. Dude, even when Spaceball 1 starts to go to ludicrous speed, it's like, I'm like, yeah, let's go. Get a little bit of adrenaline rush from that. That's not normal. Anyway, here, fellas, let's go see what's going on down in Texas here. We got the NSF footage for the day, and then we'll get back into Kerbal. Here's that Sloss article. Oh, actually, yeah. Novus, let's jump into it. We have a Phil Sloss article coming from NASA Spaceflight before we check out the Starship spaceflight footage. Okay, Boeing aiming to deliver second SLS core to NASA in March. All right. I'm just going to look at these pictures here, and I will promptly take these and... Yep. So, guys, Artemis 1 is on the pad, pretty much ready to go. They're doing checkouts for it, pretty much ready to fly. But a lot of people don't know is that the second SLS is almost ready to fly too. That's the engine section right there, and the hydrogen tank, inner tank, LOX tank, and forward skirt that make up the core stage are already assembled. We have 4 out of 5 pieces put together on the second SLS core, and the third one is already being manufactured too, which that's pretty cool. That's pretty neat. It's very long, even for Sloss. Oh, boy. Oh. Can we get the Cliff Notes? How many pages is it? Oh, this isn't too bad. Let's bust this out and learn some things about SLS. Let's go. Boeing is continuing final assembly work for the second Space Launch System core stage at Michoud in Nowlands. Sorry. Anyway, with plans to complete production and deliver the rocket stage to NASA next year in March of 2023, the space agency's prime contractor for the SLS core stages is wrapping up standalone integration of the engine section and bow tail assembly, which is the most complicated element of the launch vehicle. Following subassembly functional testing, Boeing plans to break the engine section over from its current vertical orientation to horizontal and then mate it to the upper 4/5 of the stage in late October. Hey, that's what I just said. Is the SLS reusable in any way? Nah, Scruff. No, unfortunately. I mean, actually, Orion is reusable. The capsule, that's reusable. Sure. That's about it. It does hurt seeing shuttle engines get thrown into the ocean like that, but it does hurt as a shuttle fan. But honestly, I'll trade it for boots on the moon. That's fine. That's fine. I'll trade that for going back to the moon. That's okay. Just like we traded the shuttle for going to the moon. Now we're using shuttle engines to go back to the moon. That's fine. That's a fair trade. I'll take that trade. It hurts, but I'll take the trade. Orion they're using some Artemis 1 stuff on Artemis 2. That's right, Novus. Yep. The 4 RS-25 engines would be then installed late this year, leading to final integrated function testing of the whole stage over the holidays into early next year, ahead of the planned March delivery date. That's right, guys. Yeah, early next year, man. They're going to start putting the next SLS together. Production work on Core Stage 2, Boeing's second flight article build, is progressing towards the final join of the stage elements later this year. The rocket will help launch a crew of 4 astronauts on the Artemis 2 mission to circumnavigate the moon. Currently forecasted net May of 2024. This was supposed to happen this year, but that's okay. That's okay. The engine section and bow tail for the stage are nearing the end of standalone integration. We're finishing up system integration and final electrical work to get into functional testing, said Amanda Gertje Jensen. That's an awesome last name. Gertje Jensen? Gertje Jensen? That's an awesome last name. Sweet. Boeing's Core Stage 2 engine section integrated project team lead said in a July 21st interview with NSF. We have the last few welds to get done in the coming days, but then we'll be complete. LOX feed lines are all in. LH2 hydrogen feed lines are all in. So this is the last of the CAPU, that's the Core Stage Auxiliary Power Unit, exhaust tubing that needs to go in. The stage's thrust vector control system and RS-25 engines both use hydraulics supplied by systems driven by 4 CAPUs. The CAPUs are nitrogen actuated. It's probably what it says in the next thing. They use pneumatics to spin the APUs because the core stage is not reusable. You only need a little bit of nitrogen to spin that thing to generate power for the ascent for about 8 minutes, right? And maybe a little bit longer after that. Probably maybe 15, 20 minutes total before the core stage re-enters. The exhaust for each one is expelled through a tube that runs into a port opening at the bottom of the stage on the bow tail base heat shield. The final orbital tube welds in the engine compartment are being finished along with electrical work to splice developmental flight instrumentation sensors, or DFI for short, into the wire harness. Our harness routing is mostly complete, Gertje Jensen said. For the most part, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. If I'm butchering that and this person ever sees this, I am very sorry. But also, pretty cool name. For the most part, it's connector-made splices and sensor bonds. Well, at least they're not using butt connectors. But is it helium, Novus? I mean, yeah, it wouldn't. I said nitrogen. It would probably. You're right. It'd probably be helium because you need that when the rocket launches, and helium's a little lighter. Delta V matters, even when it comes to the mass of gases. As you test out your harness, once you finish testing, then you can. Once you finish testing, then you can splice, and now you're good to put the sensors in. Cool. I'm just gonna take this and just, if you don't mind, I just need that engine section picture. Yeah, okay, there we go. There we go. Yeah, see? Engine section. So this is looking at it from the side. See those two holding points right there? SRB. That's the aft SRB attachment points right there, guys. Pretty cool. It's going to get really hot right in this area here when this thing goes to launch. Save that to my special folder. Yeah, so. The LOX feed lines were delivered to Michoud later than expected due to COVID issues with the supplier. Partly in response, the Boeing and NASA team at Michoud decided to mate the bow tail to the bottom of the engine section earlier in the production sequence than originally planned. The bow tail was bolted to the bottom of the engine section in June and July of 2021. Really? How did I miss that? I forget, did they change the APU from the shuttle? Yeah, of course they did. The shuttle APUs used hydrazine. They were a monopropellant APU, T-Man. And now this is something that Kerbal doesn't really do. You could do it, I suppose. Somebody could make a mod for it, that's for sure. So, T-Man, you have monopropellant in the form of what's called Aerozine 50, which is a type of hydrazine. And then you have that, there's a helium tank attached to that. The helium is your ullage pressure, okay? So the hydrazine is inside of a COPV, a composite overwrap pressure vessel, which is basically, think like a scuba tank that's wrapped in carbon fiber, something like that. So the hydrazine is in there, and there's what's called a bladder inside of it. So think about if you inflated a balloon inside of a scuba tank, right? Inside of that balloon is the hydrazine, right? And then when the helium tank opens, when they open the check valve in the line that comes from the helium tank, it pumps it into the cavity between that bladder and the outside of the tank, and it squeezes the bladder. And that creates pressure. That creates pressure, and then it gets squeezed into a catalyst from there. When the hydrazine hits that catalyst, the catalyst reacts with the hydrazine and heats it up. It doesn't combust it, it heats it up. And like a Nerva engine, the resulting heat expansion drives a turbine. And that turbine is attached to basically an alternator, like the alternator that you'd find on your car. It's a little more space age than that, but that's the same idea. And that's what charged the electrical systems on the shuttle. They made it hydrazine because that thing needs to work. Those things need to work basically for the entirety of, well, in the particular case of what we're talking about CAPUs. CAPUs in this capacity are designed to drive the thrust vector controls. Okay, they make the gimbals work, right? On the space shuttle, they did the same thing. But remember, you're getting all of this stuff back, right? You're getting all of it back. So because you're getting all of it back, you know, hydrazine was easier to handle, if I'm remembering right. They're actually the APUs from the shuttle. Novus, I could have sworn that the APUs from the shuttle were hydrazine catalyst driven and not just a straight helium drive. But I could be wrong. I mean, I would trust your judgment more. So they were retrofitted from the shuttle. They are from the shuttle. It's the same kind of APU, but instead of hydrazine being heated, they just spray the helium right into it. They're changed from back in the day. Okay, cool. All right. I didn't want to go and explain all that and be like, nope, never mind, wrong. I'm like, there's a lot of stuff floating around in here, guys. If I get it wrong, it's usually not because I'm guessing. I'll usually tell you when I'm guessing. It's just so much information floating around up there. Remember, this is all off the cuff. I'm not reading anything, dude. I have the article still up where I left off from reading it. And look, even the other tabs, I have the Starship footage and then Zach's breakdown on RGV's flyby. Like, I don't have any notes or anything that's helping me. That's why I always make sure to look directly at the camera when I'm explaining things to show that I'm not looking at notes. If anything, during an explanation, for people that are super skeptical, you'll see me look over here. I'm looking at chat when I do that. I have chat and OBS on that monitor, and that's enough screen real estate where I can't really see any notes. All of this is off the cuff. And once again, I do that to show that I know what I'm talking about. And sometimes I still get it wrong, even after all that. Seems a lot simpler than dangerous toxic propellant. Well, T-Man, you got to remember that they see I believe the shuttle APUs for the thrust vector control for the engines were tied into the shuttle's hydrazine systems already. So that's why. Because the shuttle had 3 fuel cells and 3 auxiliary power units. 3 fuel cells and 3 APUs working back there. And they were all tied into the same fuel tanks, if I'm remembering right. The fuel tanks on the OHMS pods. If I'm remembering that correctly. That could be wrong. Hydrazine always works. Use it on the F-16 for the emergency power unit when it loses the engine. Bad on single engine fly-by-wire. Yep. Is Playa Linda Beach going to be closed for Artemis 1? Most likely, Blue, yes. Thirst trap. Nice. Anyway. The upper 4/5 of the rocket are put together, and the top of the LH-2 tank was bolted to the bottom of the inner tank and marched to structurally connect the pieces. An access kit was installed in the inner tank to allow engineers to work inside the volume, and since then Boeing has been making the other connections to integrate systems in the 4 joined elements. Cool. Because you have a hiding speaker in your ear and the other person telling you what to say. Yeah, Black Suit, right? Quick! Someone's asking me a question about hydrazine power systems. What do you know? I need help. Now, to be fair, some people in chat do that. They do help me out with links and stuff. But yeah, most of the stuff that I tell you guys is not on a note cards or flashcards or anything. Flashcards? Note cards? I know it off the top of my head because I like this stuff. Screw me, right? Sorry, their helium spun started, but their hydrogen run from a bleed off the engine. That's what it is. You're right. You're absolutely right. You're right. It's the fuel cells that are using the catalyst. The APUs are bleed from the hydrogen. Novus, I should have known that. I'm kind of embarrassed that I got that wrong. I'm not going to lie to you. But like I said, sometimes I still make mistakes. Their helium spin started, but hydrogen run from a bleed off of the engine. Yeah, so that's the APUs. The fuel cells, there's 3 redundant fuel cells out in the back of the shuttle. Those ones using, I know something back there is using a hydrazine catalyst. Something back there uses it. Flashcards? Who the hell do... If you're in high school or in college and watching, do people still use flashcards? I don't know. I haven't been in a traditional education environment in like 15 years. But they're still the same hardware from the shuttle. Kind of gnarly that they're using a different working fluid. Really, Phil? You still use flashcards? Electronic flash. Okay, all right. Electronic flash. Okay, that makes more sense. Prefer app versions of it. That's on SLS. The shuttle ones used hydrazine. That's on SLS. The shuttle ones used it. Well, I would. Are you sure, Phil? I would suspect that the shuttle ones would use the hydrogen too, because the hydrogen's already right there. Handwriting things is better. Now, David, I will agree with that. If I type something, it does not stick in my head as well as writing something down. Absolutely not. No, writing something down, I will not forget. Which is annoying because everybody all the time encourages digital. Like, oh, why don't you just take notes on your phone? Because I won't remember it. Yeah. Oh, well, why won't you remember? You can set a reminder on your phone. Now, how about I just write it down and then I don't have to do any of that? Well, writing it down takes work. I'm like, oh, I hate you. The shuttle used hydrazine. SLS uses hydrogen. That's what I meant by a different working fluid. Interesting. One is using... The shuttle used hydrazine. Ah, okay, Novus. So the shuttles did use hydrazine. So I was right. Okay, cool. And I got the SLS ones really wrong. I said those were nitrogen. That's incorrect. But this is why I go through these Phil Sloss articles, so we can get the information correct. That's really what I care about. I don't give a frick if I'm wrong. I care about conveying the truth, right? What it actually is. I don't give a frick if I'm wrong. That doesn't hurt my pride in any way, shape, or form. If it did, I wouldn't do this. That's kind of weird, isn't it? Yeah, see? I don't care. It doesn't bother me. It's about getting the information correct. Nothing more. One note for the win. You can write down stuff digitally. I know. I have one of these right here. Or I could just knock everything off the table because I'm trying to pack stuff up and my desk is a freaking mess. This will be getting used a little bit more after we move. Just the facts, man. I was just digging the information out of my brain. Yeah, that's what was going on. Sure. Obviously. Duh. I have a remarkable tablet right there, which is actually really cool. And then, yeah, I've been packing stuff up like that and making sure it won't get damaged during the move. I'm moving, by the way. Yeah, I was just giving myself a COVID test. Slash has God tier details. Yep. Have you gotten the test that remarkable at all? I'm thinking of getting one. It's warped. I've tested it. It's like writing on paper. It's like writing on paper. Yeah, no, that's about as close as a digital implementation of writing that you can get to. And if dude, it feels right. The way they put some resistance into the stylus when you're writing, and even the surface of that remarkable tab feels like paper. It's weird, man. That's the closest thing I've ever seen to actually writing on a piece of paper. But then again, you need a pen and a piece of paper to write on a piece of paper. You need electricity for that thing to work. You know what I mean? Best part is no part, man. I wouldn't have bought one unless Wheatley gifted that to me because he's crazy. But, yeah. Anyway, let's go back over here. So, we had some issues trying to vent the core stage tank during assembly with different tools we made. 3D printed mocked up tools. Cool. They didn't work out as well as desired, so another lesson learned was to go ahead and vent the propellant tanks through the pressurization lines. That's the reason we're starting now, and we'll make those final connections. Ah, cool. Once we get the pressurized lines hooked up to the inner tank, which started today, that's the last scope of work in the inner tank. Then we're going to pull that access kit. At the point that it's either manifold or the systems tunnel. At that point, it's either manifold or systems tunnel. They're kind of neck and neck. So basically, they're gonna take out the scaffolding that they have inside of the inner tank to install all this stuff when the jobs are done. But they're not sure. The guy isn't sure which one is going to finish first. Still calling it Starship's gonna launch when you move. Of course, T-Man. Sorry for you, man. I'm not a baseball fan, but even hearing how those Boston boys are imploding, dude, it's... This is me. This is me watching the Red Sox during the summer. Here, you want to see? This is me. They lost by how much? Okay. Okay. This is fine. That's also every Ferrari fan right now. You know, you get used to the losing and the chokes. You get used to it. It's fine. You get used to it. Like I said, it's like I said the other day. Being a Yankees fan is easy. All right, that's the easy path. It's easy to root for the team that wins a lot. All right. It's really easy to do that. Pain. 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 Your dad's a Cleveland fan. Well, Cleveland's kicking the trash out of the Sox right now. They've taken 2. I think the Sox took 1 from Cleveland, though. I'd have to look. But anyway. All right. Go A's. Yeah.
Discovery, go and throttle up.
It ain't easy being an A's fan, what's up, that's for sure. What's up? Iron Spark, Tier 2 17-month resub. Some days are better than others. Some other days are like stubbing your pinky toe. Yep. What's the inner tank again? It's a cylindric stringer section T-man that connects the oxygen tank to the hydrogen tank. It's where the front of the SRB is attached to. If you look at a picture of SLS, like just Google SLS right now, there's the top of the SRBs, and then there's kind of a ridged area. That's the inner tank. You could, like, the Reds, we are not the worst team in baseball, just the second worst. Hey, at least the D-backs are worse than you. As an Arizona sports fan, you shut your mouth. I'm not saying that I have it the hardest, Sirius. I'm just saying that it gets difficult at times. That's all. I stopped watching or rooting for Cleveland since it changed its name. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Guardians now. Oh. Alright. The Orioles are actually ahead of the Red Sox in the standings. Dude, we were, like, in second place, like, 3 weeks ago. The Red Sox have catastrophically imploded. They've won, like, 4 or 5 games in all of July or something ridiculous. I don't even know what it is. I'd have to go look. We have a very losing record for the month of July. Like, very losing. I know how you feel. The Lions can't do anything right. D-Man, I am a Lions fan. I was a Lions fan even before I started dating Brimo. I was a Lions fan, which is funny because I'm also a Patriots fan. Patriots are my hometown team, so sorry, it's not my fault they haven't sucked for 20 years. Like, whatever. But also, I like the Lions because I like Detroit. I've liked Detroit even before I started dating Brimo. My fiance is from Detroit, so for the people that don't know, I've always liked the Lions. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's really where that sentence ends. I've always liked them. Give the Sox some slack. Playing baseball is really hard, and sometimes they get tired. That's honestly, Force, that's not my problem. We're paying these people millions of dollars to not be like that. Yeah, I don't blame you. I'm still gonna. They're the Indians, man. I can't, dude. It's like, even if I wanted to just rewire that in my head, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't call the Redskins the Washington football team, and I don't mean any disrespect. It's hard for me to rewire that in my head. Like, I don't really give a frick if teams want to change their names. I understand the implications, and I understand why people are not on board with it, but I also understand why people are on board with it. It's hard for me, dude. I'm getting old, man. It's hard for me to change all this stuff. Everything's changed. Everybody's changing. I can't keep track of it, man. I can't keep track of it, dude. It's too much. It's too much crap. Like, that's not something I can, like, I'm, like, trying to keep track of. I'm not going to say they don't care, because that delegitimizes why they changed their name. Like, I get it, but it's just, I can't, like, I'm sorry. I'm just getting old. That's so much stuff. I'm trying to teach myself all this stuff about rocket science. That's not high on my priority list. I don't mean any disrespect. I understand the reasons why they changed their names. I get it. What I'm saying is I'm just being an old fart about it. That's the honest truth, man. I'm just being an old fart about it. Here, I'm going through this a little bit. Yeah, that's fine. You guys, some people are not cool with it. Some people, I don't know, man. Like, if you want to change your name, change it, whatever. You can call them the Cleveland Bananarama for all I care. I don't really give a frick. Ain't my team, dude. Like. Okay, following the installation of the aft manifold, LH2 pre-valves would then be installed on the manifold in preparation for the engine section mate. The system's tunnel is a cable tray that runs along the outside of the stage that houses wiring for the computer network and device data within the stage. The tunnel is attached to the stage in 2 sections. Custom tooling is used to stage the base plates of the cable and most of the cable itself offline. Before the tool is rode into the final assembly area underneath the stage raised and the tunnel section is attached. T-Man, here is the... hold on. Yeah, that's the inner tank right here. See this? That's the EIT. So we're looking at, that's a LOX down pipe. That's where the liquid oxygen line comes out of the inner stage, down from the LOX tank, which is over here, and then it'll see the brackets for it. It'll run down the side, and go into the engine section. The LOX tanks run around the hydrogen tank. The reason why is if you have liquid oxygen and you have liquid oxygen going through a liquid hydrogen tank, like what's called an internal downcomer, right? These are called downcomers because the liquid oxygen comes down from the LOX tank, right? If you have liquid oxygen going through your liquid hydrogen tank, now don't get me wrong, this isn't impossible, you just got to account for it. But if you just had a straight pipe that goes through the tank like what Starship has, for instance, right? The downcomer, you would actually heat the hydrogen up. Liquid oxygen, which is freaking freezing, would heat the liquid hydrogen up and the hydrogen would turn to gas. So when you're using this type of design, especially with the spray-on foam insulation, external downcomers are better. Because your hydrogen stays cold, and if your hydrogen stays cold, you can squeeze more out of it because it doesn't turn to gas, right? Loxygen. Yep. Is this the super mega moon rocket? Yeah. The assembly was placed in a special workstand transportation tool and moved back to the engine section integration area of Building 103. In May, the engine section bow tail assembly was moved on the transportation tool to the final assembly area to the rest of the stage. Making the move in May put all the stage hardware in the same area, which allowed air conditioning to be applied in a smaller part of the facility. The hardware was also moved completely into the final assembly area this time, which also allowed a curtain to be put up to help make the air conditioning more effective. You got to keep things at the same temperature. You don't want stuff expanding and contracting, because if it the air conditioning fails and you go to install a component and then they turn the AC back on again after they fix it, it could contract and break it. That's the tolerances that this vehicle is engineered to. It's actually pretty insane. You'll feel the environmental changes as you get inside of the curtain. That's cool. All right. I'm skimming this, fellas. I'm not going to lie to you. There's the engine section right there. So see the downcomer? There's two of them. There's one on the other side because they're feeding 4 shuttle engines instead of 3 like on the space shuttle, so they needed a second one. This one feeds the 2 engines over here and the other one feeds the 2 engines over there. And what's kind of crazy is that there's a manifold. This pipe goes basically across, and it doesn't work exactly like this. This isn't a blueprint, an end-all blueprint of how this thing looks, but the downcomer actually goes inside of the engine section, goes between the 2 engines, and then connects to the other one over there. And then there's 2 pipes here, and then there's 2 pipes here that lead to the oxygen lines to the engines, which would be here, and then there would be 2 on the other side. Does anybody know why it does that? To be fair, in the middle of that, there's a tee-off somewhere else. Why outside? Temperatures. Yep. I told you it was lengthy. Yep. Anybody know? Why would the 2 downcomers be connected to each other? Think about it. Why would you want that? Equalize the pressure? Well, that has something to do with it, Phil. Yeah, sure. Don't you think you'd want to fill up each downcomer evenly with liquid oxygen? Right? There's one tail service mast umbilical over here that fills oxygen. That one pipe needs to split into 2 to go to each downcomer. You don't want to fill one downcomer on SLS and then when you go to turn the rocket on, splash LOX down the other one. That would end very poorly. Yeah, like so you gotta fill up both of them equally. And now you have to do anti-geysering and pogo on 2 LOX lines, right? So you'd want one pipe feeding into 2 and making sure that they both fill up evenly and then start filling up the LOX tank, right? So the downcomers are connected down here at the engine section. They're also connected up into the LOX tank up at the top of the rocket, right? It connects via a duct that runs along the barrel. So it doesn't go all the way across. It goes around to the tail service mast, right? The tail service mast umbilical, Novus, and then it goes around again. So the LOX line looks like a C. Pretty cool, huh? Yeah, think about it. There are challenges associated with twin downcomers like that. Pretty crazy, right? Redundancy in case one line was blocked. I mean, Caden, if you have FOD inside of the rocket, say like there's a piece of rubber or something in there, it usually gets caught by a check valve. And there are check valves in this design. I know there are. Their check valves are up in the inner tank. We were hearing them talk about it a second ago. So the check valve is there, or it's either a check valve or a pre-valve. Pre-valves will catch it, usually. But honestly, if there's foreign objects in there, if there's like rubber or a leftover tool inside of the tank, yeah, it's not going to end well. Yeah, it ain't going to end well. I'm sure you talked about the new Mars plans, but I just had to say I'm so happy Ingenuity class has become a thing. And man, yeah, we had a whole conversation about that, dude. The conversation was basically, dude, Ingenuity had no freaking purpose. Jim put Ingenuity on it because it was cool to fly around a helicopter on Mars. And because NASA, for a change, wanted to do something cool instead of wanting to do science by the book, we ended up thinking about sample return in a completely different way. Sometimes it's favorable to be bold and do crazy stuff, right? We should get back to doing more of that. And you know what? This is a good way to do that. The LH2 doesn't need something like that because the LH2 sump is inside of the engine section, so it's got lines that go straight to the engines. Cool. No, the hydrogen line goes straight in to the cap that's on the bottom. We saw it over here. Oh, no. Manifold. So, yeah, in the engine section, there's something that bolts to this and then probably splits 4 ways, right? There's the ES. There's your repress lines right there for autogenous pressurization. Cool. Need to do more playtime, less super serious time. Agreed. That's a lot of tape. The tape is there, if I'm remembering correctly, because they glued some of this stuff on, and the tape is there to hold it while the glue sets on the Sophie, if I'm understanding that correctly. Could be wrong. Either that or they just like taping things. That is the 4-way. Just the feed lines are attached. Okay. Cool. Wasn't that like a dome shape before? Or am I thinking of the LOX tank? No. Okay, no. Wrong. Help. No. All right, no. I got 3 no's. Sorry, the sump is later in the article. Okay, all right. Later in the article. Oh, hey. Huh? Yes? There's the downcomer right there. Multitasking. Beast mode. Yeah. Cool. That's crazy that the second SLS is going to be done by the end of the year. That's pretty neat. And keep in mind, guys, this rocket is not really a prototype. NASA doesn't test the same way that SpaceX tests. NASA basically does as much of the engineering and testing on the ground as possible and then puts together a flight test article and then sends it once, and that validates all their data. Right? A lot of this stuff has already been validated. All the stuff that's already been validated, they're building core stage 2 with right now. This is all the stuff that's already tested that they know is going to work. That's why they're putting this thing together. And it's nuts that after Artemis 1, this thing is basically, they'll probably do some minor adaptations to this thing based off of the flight data from Artemis 1, but in an ideal scenario, Artemis 1 should just prove all the modifications that they've made to this stage. It should prove that they work. Proto-flight. Yep. What I'm trying to get at is that, NASA doesn't just put it on the pad, let's go, and have like a backfire underneath it like Booster 7. Not saying that the way SpaceX does things is bad. Not saying that. They just test differently. It's just a different way of testing. SpaceX is more frick around and find out, and then figure out, and then based off of what we found, make modifications to the vehicle. NASA does all the engineering first and then sends it. Now, I will say that that does take more time, but that drastically increases your probability of success for the first mission. So, dude, we're on par to basically, right now, like, you know, we were talking about this yesterday, right now it looks like we're on par to get one SLS core per year, but we got to figure out what's going on with DST and whatnot. Novus, is DST is using Michoud, right? Like, of course they are. Like, why? That was a dumb question, but I won't know until I ask, you know? So NASA put out a contract reward the other day, or a contract proposal for one company called Deep Space Transport LLC, and they're going to be a commercial operator for SLS that works with NASA. Yeah, SLS is technically going to be commercial, technically. That's not anything new. They did the same thing with the shuttle program. I still think they're going to do a second high bay, but that's just me. It has to. Yeah, there's nothing else that you can use. There's no facility big enough to do that. Unless you wanted to build Michoud at the Cape. I mean, Elon's basically doing that, but that's for Starship. SpaceX approach makes more sense when you're doing something crazy never tried before, like what SpaceX tends to do. Bingo, Caden. Yep. It's an important thing to understand. Fifth Starship Tower section is rolling out. Now, Novus, I'm going to read the rest of the article off stream. Ooh, let me read this last bit at the end of the article. The 10 motor segments for the solid rocket boosters for Artemis 2 are already completed and currently remain in storage in Promontory, Utah. Delivery may again be on hold until closer to the planned launch readiness date. Even with that delay in shipping, the SRB segments for Artemis 1, the boosters have been stacked much longer than the generic 12-month safe stack limit. Or 12-month stack life limit. If NASA wanted to stick with a generic analysis and avoid a long SRB stack life for the Artemis 2 vehicle, they may want to defer stacking the boosters and shipment of the segments before that. A similar question may come up with Core Stage 2. Deliver it in place at Michoud next March, or ship it to Florida and garage it in the VAB transfer aisle. Now that Core Stage 1 and the Artemis 1 vehicle are getting close to their first launch countdown, the need to use Core Stage 2 for spare parts should be concluded. Pretty much done with giving Kennedy stuff. They're wrapped up. We've given them a few parts, but we're hoping, cross our fingers, that they're done with it. Interesting. I wanted to read that part about the SRBs. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to read the rest of that off stream. I think we should flip over to Starship coverage now. Let's see what's going on with our buddies over at NASA Spaceflight. Venus? Venus, right? Well, that's pretty neat. Mars? You're Mars. Mars was in conjunction with the moon. Oh, that's pretty neat. Said the guy's name was Mars Lee Swagger. Never met the man, though. Ship transport stand. Cool. Looks like SpaceX is getting more and more of these transport stands delivered. We've seen a lot of this stuff being delivered over the past couple of weeks. Like, almost like more starships are going to need stands to sit on while they're being built. And they can't stand it. They can't stand your puns, boy. Yep, there's more stand pieces. As long as the dirt is healthy, Starship will take root and stand on its own. Yeah. Yes. 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 Rockets don't grow on trees no matter how hard you plant them. What about wooden SRBs? Yeah, you can do that. Why couldn't you? Wood would work fine as a solid rocket propellant. It would work fine. After Space News, would you consider posting an iteration of Collins on Kerbal X? No. No. Def, use the SSTOs that I have on Kerbal X. Those have a similar... Look how I put together the SSTOs. Those have a very similar style. In fact, they're copied from Collins. The salami rocket ain't gonna fit. You guys ain't getting Collins. No, hell no. That's mine. That's the only one, Def. I still have that rule to this day. No one gets the shuttle. Build your own damn shuttle. Everything else is fair game. Like the Kraken drive, for instance. Tank testing valve actuators. Yep, that's what those are. Do you tell them to shuttle their mouth? I thought you just said no pun intended. SMH my head. Are the towers hand-built? What do you mean hand-built? I recommend you log after Space News. Nah, we got a launch box to build to fix the SSTO. No, Hell Hydra. It's mine. I've only given the shuttle design out to one viewer, and that was for off-site redundant backup. No, no one else can get it. No, I'm not saying which viewer it is. It's funny because they don't really watch the stream too much anymore. I know I have a backup. Skid steer. So that's the cap from 7.2. This thing over here, they did take it off. That's a scrap metal bin. You can tell it's scrap because of the way it is. How'd you know, Joker? Oh wait, no. I didn't play along correctly. Don't tell them that. Sorry. Do you have a backup to the back of the backup? I do, Pythos. I have the shuttle on a flash drive at my parents' house. I have the shuttle on a flash drive here. And I have the shuttle on both computers and off-site storage. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm very careful with my Kerbal stuff, dude. Plot twist, it was Serious Potato Bot. No one would suspect that. Any in the cloud? I think it's synced on Steam Cloud, too. Truck! Red truck. It goes faster. Look at the red truck. I'm driving it, see? Hey, stop! Don't open the door. Is that a bird or is that a drone? You see that? I wish I could make that right there. A hinge like that in KSP. That would be quite nice. Both? Wait, what? Don't worry, I'll wait for you You don't understand, chat. This guy punned in my chat. You guys don't understand. This guy made puns in my chat. I had to shoot him in the face. What do you want? Say hello to your mother for me, okay? Oh, wait, you can't, because you're dead. Yeah, that's a Liber 11,000. It is a... I call this bolshoi. It's the Russian word for gigantic. And I call it Chunguska. It's like Tunguska, but with big chungus. So bolshoi Chunguska. He's big crane. Monster crane. Chunguska. Da, Chunguska. Big chungus, big chungus. Dun 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 dun. Da 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 da. I'm sorry. Something about tank treads. Just that noise is awesome. Sir, this is 2022, not 1942. My bad. Cool. Can we conclude space news with the... Can we just... Yeah, of course, Art. See what I mean? Uh-oh. This is from 1942, man. I played in the 1942 beta, and I lied about my age about it. It was great. Got the bazooka. That's not going to do much to that tiger, is it? Maybe in the back. That wasn't a good idea. No. That was a good idea. Ah, Katyusha! What a great game, dude. I forgot that this game is the best. I do remember Desert Combat, yep. Uh-oh. Not good. Oh, really, Luizo? And what happens if I try to play this? Verify distance to target. 1 ping only. Hang on. Now that I'm older, I need to see something. Those B-17s have the right markings on it? I didn't spell eighth right. BF2 2140 2142 was cool. Interesting idea with Titan mode. I don't know, man. Can't see it in that one. You can't see the tails. That is a sick name for a B-17. Could be the 15th. I'm not sure. Somebody help us out. What's the markings for that? I don't know. So it says XVA and then another X with a V and a triangle on the tail. Those bombs are much too large for the B-17, by the way. I'm just putting it out there. Those bombs are way too big. I don't think the B-17 could carry that much payload. Someone during my high school years placed 1942 on a shared drive that only students could see. Nice. Enemy boat spotted. No. Yeah. No, that... nope. Yep. That... Yeah. Yeah, okay. I don't want to watch any more of this because, yeah, it'll... Yeah, that's... The B-17 can't carry that much, dudes. It can't carry that much payload. That's way too many bombs for a B-17. How did they fit all that in the payload bay? Maybe, yeah, it could carry like maybe 5 of a bomb that size. It doesn't have much payload capacity, guys. An A-10 has more payload capacity. An A-10 can carry more bombs than a B-17. Consider that. And it has a huge flying titanium bathtub and Gatling gun on it. Yeah, true story. Clipping! Part clipping! Clipping! Yeah, B-17s were good for the time. But, yeah, they don't carry as many bombs as you might think. That's why they needed to send a bunch of them. If you wanted to strategically bomb the trash out of, like, Dresden or Mannheim or something, which is basically what they did. It's what the 8th Air Force did. Yeah, you need to send a lot of B-17s. A Sky Raider has more payload. Yep. Yep. An F-15 is longer? No. 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 I don't believe that. Okay, so let me be real. I believe you, but I also don't believe that. Hold on. Let's find B-17s here. B-17. I have more payload. Well, after Taco Bell, of course. Length, 74 feet. 22. B-17s are small. It's a small plane. So it's 74 feet. All right, so F-15. Okay, a B-17 is still a little bit bigger, but it's not that much bigger. Guys, yeah, we're talking about a 3-meter difference here. That's very strange. Look, DV, what's that? Oh, nice picture. It's a pretty plane. B-17s do look amazing. Now, you want to talk about a World War II plane that could take a lot of payload. Here. That plane could move a lot of payload. I've been wondering, how can you tell an F-16 and an F-15 apart? F-16 has one engine. How to differentiate between an F-18 and an F-15? F-18s have strakes on them. Like that. See the strakes? Yep, F-18s have strakes. F-15s don't have that. Yeah, B-36, yeah, that's fine if you want to go and try to bomb the target with more payload arc and your wings catch on fire. Because they didn't realize putting a propeller blade behind a wing might actually make the propeller work worse. You know the B-36 was one of the first cost-plus contracts, right? Now how do you feel about it? F-15 is Big Chungus square body. Yes. Yes. Big Chungus. Oh, these are great pictures by Joe Navin. He works over at NASA Spaceflight. He's at Oshkosh. Took some sweet freaking pictures. I never said I preferred over the big V-29. It was just larger. Fair. Here. I'll meet you in the middle. How about this? Anybody know what a B-50 is? How about a B-29 with jet engines on it? Yeah. The upgraded B-29 called the B-50 fixed all the problems that the original B-29 had. It had a lot of bugs with the remote turret system and depress stuff, and then they just figured that, you know, 4 of those Wright Cyclones were not powerful enough, so they put 2 jets on it. Yep, 4 turning, 2 burning. That's right, Dale. I mean, it's not 6 turning, 4 burning like the B-36 is. ARC is right for what it's worth, but yeah. B-29 with jet engines on it, because of course. Why not? The B-36 would have been better if it had jet engines on it, but that's the precise reason why the Air Force dumped it for the B-47. Which is, you can say whatever you want. The B-47 is one of the prettiest planes ever devised. Look at. Come on now. I know, Baxley, isn't it crazy? The B-47, though, come on. Look at that thing. That is a pretty aircraft. I love the bubble cockpit. It's so cool. I mean, the B-47 got dumped on by the B-52, which is basically a better version of it. See, the meta here was because you had a jet with a swept wing that could fly faster and further than anything else, right? You don't need gunners, you don't need a whole bomber crew. You could just automate all those systems. And so all you need is a bomber and a pilot, and maybe a guy up in front, and that's about it. That's what they were trying to do. Because during World War II, they're like, oh, we're sending these big bomber crews, and every time one gets shot down, we lose 7 to 8 guys. Screw that. You're losing 2 pilots, that's not, no. So they wanted to try and put full automation on it and make a 2-man freaking vehicle that could bring nukes. This thing could basically do what the Enola Gay could do, but with 2 dudes. It's got a canopy cockpit like a fighter jet, Kuro. Yeah, it's cool, man. Dude, that B-47s are as big as a B-17. They're huge. They're not as big as a B-52, though. Actually, it's 25 feet bigger than a B-17, dude. It's crazy. They're crazy planes. Is it 3 GA? Yeah, so 3 dudes, right? Crazy. I mean, you could see that the B-47 was a stopgap. But yeah, that was the idea. That's what they wanted to do. They wanted to have 2 guys in a nuclear bomber. Loud. See, that's a very pretty airplane, man. Wait a minute. Yeah, Pythos. And the crazy part is that they were going to carry that cockpit over to the B-52. And then they said, nah, never mind. The XB-52 has a tandem inline cockpit, dude. It looks like something. This looks like something that you'd see in like a Captain America movie. Yeah, man, I like that. I like it. I think that's really cool. B-52s are freaking huge, man. They're a really big plane. And look, there's a B-36 behind it. I mean, B-36s are monstrous. But, dude, look at how cool that looks. Oh, that looks so legit. That looks so legit, dude. What a pretty airplane. You know, you think by looking at a B-52, you're like, oh, the fuselage looks very, very lanky, right? It looks very, very, very lanky looking plane. Yeah, that fuselage is 2 stories tall, by the way. Yeah, like, it's freaking huge. Very big, like 747 big. Hey, it needs to be a big plane, needs to have huge wings. It carries a lot of boom underneath here. It looks like a galaxy from PlanetSide. Holy crap, it does. It does look like a galaxy. Oh, that's cool, man. I never even looked into that. Have you seen this? Ever heard of the CF-100? Yes? Recently learned about it. Curious what you think. I need a quick refresher. That's kind of cool. First generation Canadian fighter. Neat. I mean, if we're gonna talk, if we're gonna talk about Avro Canada, that's that ZF-100. No, CF-105. Now that's the plane you want, right there. That's the plane you want. That's the plane you want there, boys. Look at that one. Oh, that one's a really fast one right there. That one goes faster than everything else. It's a really nice plane, eh? Oh, yeah, that's a real good one. Oh, that one's real fast. It goes about like Mach 2 or something. No, it's the Avro Arrow. Avro Arrow was a Canadian interceptor. It was used to shoot. They designed it to like get up there, shoot down Soviet bombers, and come back down. So the plane ended up being extremely freaking fast. Like here, I'll show you. Where's the top speed? It's in here somewhere. Yeah, here we go. Here we go there, bud. Yeah, see that? 1,300 miles an hour. That's Mach 2. They never tested its maximum potential. 1,136 knots is booking. That's really fast. And then, you know, the reason why it was never tested fully is because it got canned because they decided they didn't need it. Pain. Pain there, bud. Oh, I got a lot of pain in my face. Can't you see? The CF-100 was a great interceptor and served very well in NATO air defense. Deeply underrated plane. Cool. Cool. Yeah. Look, I mean, look at it. That is a Banff-looking plane. I like it. We built one for Wings Wednesday a little while back. It goes fast. What the heck? Minton Man is streaming. What the heck? What? I don't understand. Also, the program was riddled with Soviet spies. Yeah, because they came over from the TSR-2 program, right? You ever see the YB-40? Why? B-40. It was a modification for operational testing purposes of the B-17 aircraft to act as a heavy gunship to support other bombers. That's a lot of 50s. That's a lot of deuces. So it was a variant of a B-17G. The B-17G variants have the chin turret right there. B-17 is just one of the prettiest planes ever devised. I'm sorry, I don't care what anybody says. That is a beautiful airplane. Have you seen that one of the WV-57s went on a little trip? I guess we're just into plane news, huh, fellas? Oh, that's cool. Yeah, WB-57s. Yeah, shut up, Odin. Shut up. That's a nice airplane. It's British. At least it was. We Americanized it. WB-57s. NASA uses them for high-altitude research and reconnaissance. Not reconnaissance, high-altitude research. They do... He said doo-doo. They do use them for recon. They use them to image capsules coming back from re-entry, like Dragon and Starliner. Yeah, and one's going to record the SN-24 re-entry. Yeah, that's what we've heard. Yep. B-17 may look cool, but it can't compare to the sound of a Lanc. Lancasters are cool. Because, a Spitfire has one Merlin engine. Why have one Merlin engine when you could have 4 Merlin engines? It's science. It's science. It's science. It's science. It's science. Now, personally, I don't need 4 Merlin engines. I don't need 4. I'll be just fine with 2. Thank you very much. Personally, I don't need 4 Merlin engines. I just need 2 of them. We're good. But Lancs are very cool. Awesome plane. I knew that was coming. I will not miss an opportunity to talk about how badass that plane actually is. De Havilland Mosquito is one of my favorite World War II planes. It's made out of oak. It's wood. Stealth. But, seriously, think about this for a second. It's made out of wood, so it's absurdly light. And it's made out of wood because they didn't have enough aluminum. So de Havilland proposed building a heavy fighter out of wood and giving it 2 Spitfire engines. So the plane is absurdly light and has an insane amount of power because it has 2 Spitfire engines in it. And it's also stealth. Fast. Very fast. The P-38, well, the P-38 is kind of the same idea. P-38 is the same idea, except that the P-38 doesn't have Merlin engine in it. It has 2 Allison V1710s in it. Good motors, but they were the motors from the P-40, so they're not... Those motors were kind of dogs. They really weren't. They were an interwar engine design. But see, a young engineer at Lockheed looked at that and said, oh, I got an idea. So he looked at the V1710, that Allison engine, which was junk. It was outdated by World War II. A young engineer at Lockheed looked at it and said, how can we make this thing perform better? And he noticed that a V1710 has an absurdly low compression ratio. So it didn't really perform that well at high altitudes, right? So, I mean, what a lot of people were doing at the time is having a centrifugal... A lot of engine designers, a lot of engine metas at the time for airplanes was to put a centrifugal supercharger on the engine. So the same axle that turns the propeller will also turn a supercharger to force more air into the engine. I think the V1710 did come with a centrifugal supercharger like that. But this young Lockheed engineer looked at that and said, we can make more boost that way. We can make more boost. And what that young Lockheed engineer came up with is coming up with a staged forced induction for the P-38. Turbo supercharged. In the early 40s. Turbo supercharged. Guy figured out that if you have the supercharger going into a turbocharger and the turbocharger compressing it, doing a further compression, you basically create a stage compression like what a modern jet engine has, right? A modern jet engine has a bunch of compressors lined up right with each other. So one compressor feeds into the next compressor, feeds into the next compressor, feeds into the next compressor. That's a stage turbine. So let's take a J85 for instance. A J85 is a 7-stage axial turbine. This young Lockheed engineer came up with this idea of having a 2-stage forced induction system on this old Allison V1710. The result was that the V1710, which was a piece of junk, was performing just as well as every other engine nowadays. And the guy came up with the idea by turbo supercharging them. That's what all this stuff is back here. There's a turbo supercharger with an intercooler back there. Like that. Intercoolers. Intercooled stage turbo supercharging in early 1940. Guy was like 27 when he came up with this. Anybody know his name? You already said it in chat. I know people already said it in chat. Clarence Kelly Johnson, that guy. Anybody know what other planes he designed? U-2, Lockheed Constellation, SR-71, F-117. Yeah, that guy understood aerodynamics. He designed the P-38 when he was 27, and it was one of the best performing fighters in all of the war. All the war. The guy that shot down the most amount of Japanese planes, the guy by the highest kill count of any U.S. pilot, flew a P-38. The guy's name was Richard Bong. Yeah, Bong. Yeah, he flew a P-38. He had like 300 confirmed kills in the Pacific. Unfreaking believable. Yeah, the Blackbird was Ben Rich. That's right. Yeah, Kelly Johnson was out by half blue. He retired by then, but yeah. Turbo supercharging. Turbo supercharging 75 years ago. Unfreaking believable. Unbelievable. Turbo supercharging. Dude, this is the P-38 was light years ahead in design. This is light years ahead of anything else. Yeah, light years ahead. I mean, P-38 wouldn't have fared too well against the Focke-Wulfs. Yep. Focke-Wulfs are one of the most... You're talking about an FW-190, right? There's BF-109s and Focke-Wulf 190s. The 190 is one... Dude, that plane, I'd be scared fighting against those things. So the Focke-Wulf, super maneuverable. Why? Why is it super maneuverable? Well, if you look at a P-38, it's also very maneuverable, and believe it or not, it's maneuverable for the same reasons. The wing is forward on the center of mass, right? That's what you want. Any Kerbal player knows that. You want center of lift and center of mass lined up. But the wings being forward like this and having a huge long tail back to control surfaces means you're more maneuverable because your control surfaces are further away from the plane's center of mass. So they have better what's called moment. They have better pitch, yaw, and roll moment right there. Just like if your ailerons on your plane are further away from the central axis of the plane, you can roll faster, right? Now, Focke-Wulf 190 and the P-38 both use that. See the Focke-Wulf? Its wing is right up at the front. It's in front of the cockpit. The cockpit is behind the wing. When the engineers at Focke-Wulf figured this out, they made it a super maneuverable fighter. This thing can outmaneuver anything, just like the P-38 could. But the P-38 is also a much bigger plane. Focke-Wulfs are very tiny airplanes. If you want to see